warm good morning, everyone. Are we all seated? I request everyone to kindly take your seats as we are about to begin with the day 2 of HR Meet 2026, Tech-Enabled, People-Driven, which is organized by Growth Seller, and I am your host, Subeksha Khadka. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today, and I'm sure we've laid an amazing foundation in day 1, and we hope to build even more stronger map here today as we move ahead with HR Meet 2026. To debrief about day 1 with you all, we explored the evolving role of AI in our workplaces, not just as a replacement, but as a bridge to remind ourselves that technology works best when guided by human intent. The biggest takeaway also was humanity first and technology second. We always talk about, AI is going to take over, but we also convinced ourselves and we talked about how trust, human inspirations, we can only find around us among our people. Because at the end of the day, no matter how algorithm works or how technology can rebuild itself every single day, empathy is one thing that we can only find in humans. And hope you all are excited and energized as you were yesterday. Can I hear from all of you? Are we excited for day 2? A little louder, please. Thank you. Before we begin, I would also like to thank our sponsors from here. May I have our chairperson of HR Meet Steering Committee, Mrs. Samjana Sharma, to kindly be on stage as we honor a few of our sponsors in the beginning of the event. Our insurance partner, MetLife, can we have the representative to kindly be on stage to receive the token of appreciation? Thank you, MetLife, for being our insurance partner and your constant support. Our internet partner is WorldLink. A big round of applause for WorldLink. Can we have the representative to be on stage to receive the token of appreciation? Our event partner, Vogue Events, representative from Vogue Events. Can we have you on stage, please? A big round of applause for Vogue Events for helping us put together this fantastic event for all of us. SMS partner, Sparrow SMS. Education partner, TechSpire College. Representative, if you're around, may we have you on stage, please? Right. Thank you so much, Samjana ma'am, for helping us do the honors. I would also like to take a moment to read out our entire lineup of our sponsors and supporters. Wellness partner, Tranquility Spa. Platinum sponsor, Unilever Nepal Limited. Gold sponsor, Rotho Mentholatum Nepal. Internet partner, WorldLink Limited. SMS partner, Sparrow SMS. Education partner, TechSpire College. Event partner, Vogue Events. Media partner, Corporate Hub. Knowledge partner, Growth Leadership. Organized by Growth Sellers Private Limited. आज शनिबारको दिन ईद पनि रहेको छ यसै कारण यहाँहरु सबैलाई म ईद मुबारक भन्न चाहन्छु ग्रोथ सेलर र एचआर मीट को सम्पूर्ण परिवारको तर्फबाट. All right, with that, now let's begin with our very first session. Our first keynote session topic is embedding psychological first aid in HR practices. This session particularly focuses on HR and how it can respond to employees' emotional and psychological needs in today's workplace. It also explores about how leaders can foster empathy, how we have been talking about it since day one, encouraging open conversations and building supportive system that help employees feel safe, valued, and able to perform at their very best. To conduct this very session, may I invite Faculty and Head Capacity Building Unit, SAIM Independent Consultant, HROD Gender Research, Ms. Dyuti Baral on stage. A big round of applause for her. Ms. Dyuti Baral is an academic and consultant specializing in human resource development, organizational development, and gender studies. She leads the capacity building unit at SAIM and also works as an independent consultant and researcher with Social Science Baha. Her work focuses on capacity building, emotional intelligence in leadership, and promoting inclusive, people-centered organizational practices here in Nepal. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody can hear. Yeah. So a warm welcome to you on a Saturday, and this actually proves that HR work 24/7. So if anybody had any doubt, it's now cleared. We work especially on weekends, isn't it? Because our work never gets over. So welcome to today's session on PFA. This is going to be about 40 minutes long, hopefully. You can never know with the faculty. And of course, there's going to be time for Q&A. If anyone has any questions in between, please do note it, and we will discuss it at the end. All right. So I have divided the presentation into two parts. One is an introduction, and the other is to talk more about the embeddedness. And I think, have I gone too far ahead? Yeah. I think I'm going to talk a bit about the term embeddedness. It's a very powerful word. When you talk of mainstreaming practices, integrating practices, a mainstream can also become off-stream. It can be out of trend. When you talk of integration, you are putting things together in place. But when you talk of embedding, you are making it so much a part of you, it cannot be taken out. So having PFA as a DNA of HR is what is being required. It cannot be taken out. It should not be taken out of the HR portfolio. So if it is going to be very much a part of HR portfolio, it needs that strategic alliance that any HR or OD intervention requires. Yeah? When we look back the 6 months and we think about a couple of major events that happened, of course, Gen Z is one thing that comes to mind. I recently had an opportunity to talk to the owner of Bhat Bhatini at Maharajganj, and he was mentioning how devastating this was for the employees, many of whom had used their tenure, their work, as a support for teaching their children, looking after the aging parents, or planning for their own home or other expenses. a sudden out-of-job experience meant that none of these could materialize, or not in the way they had envisaged. This is a moment for PFA. It is requiring a first measure, I would say, an immediate measure for emotional distress, dealing with emotional distress. Now, PFA, when you look at how people respond to it, they often get either inside themselves, they either withdraw completely or they vent out completely. They're often two extremes. There may be others, but they're often two extremes. So in this line for Bharat Bhatini at Maharajganj, I actually had the opportunity to interview a few of the workers there. And two ladies said that they were so shocked, they couldn't eat for a couple of days, they couldn't sleep because they didn't know if their job was still there or not. But luckily for them, they had an internal memo wherein they were told that not only was their job safe, even their salary was going to be paid. This was a major, major event for them, yeah? So yes, it does deserve a round of applause as well. Hidden grief is very common. Many of us are grappling with that. It could be the loss of a friend, a pet, a family member, or loss of opportunities. And this again is a PFA moment. COVID was definitely a PFA moment, yeah? And one of our students who was the eldest son, eldest sons have the brunt of it, I tell you. So this eldest son had to take care of his parents who had COVID, so they were in quarantine. And then his grandmom, who came from the village because the parents thought she would be safer here, she had COVID as well. And then he was running around looking for oxygen cylinders for her, because if there wasn't any oxygen, she would die. That was a PFA moment for him. And he called up to say, ma'am, I cannot attend online classes. My mind is not where studies are. My mind is where my grandmom is. And I cannot concentrate. And he was one of the 4 GPA students. So what do? Do you get angry with him? No, he is in a situation not of his making. Most PFA moments are situations not of our making. And they create or they trigger other situations which are secondary, which are of our making. And we'll also be discussing about that briefly. PFA can be seen in very scientific terms as a cause and effect. So a psychological trauma occurs. It could be many causes for it. And the effect is on your mental health and your seeking for psychological support. Many of us who have gone through different traumas in life, different griefs in life, it could be that you were offered a job, but when you went to sign the contract, suddenly you are told that the offer no longer holds. This happened very recently to people at Amazon in the US, where they had been verbally told a job offer, but with AI, suddenly their job offers were retracted. Yeah? It's happened recently in Dubai, where a friend of mine who works in Rocha Federer, he was offered a job in a different company, and he was going for an interview. This just 2 weeks ago. And when he went for the interview, the job had been withdrawn because of the war. He is in a PFA moment because he has resigned from Rocha Ferrero and he doesn't have a job in hand. So for workplaces, it is a major trauma. What can HR do about it? Often HR are in the midst of a mess created by somebody else and we have to clean it up. Sometimes we are the mess ourselves, and sometimes we have to walk in a situation of mess and then clear it up. Usually, HR is often the person to be called when there's a problem and rarely credited for the work it does. How many of you believe this is to be true? If there is hard work to be done, HR is called. Raise your hands if you agree with that, yeah? We see a lot of raise of hands because that's how it happens. That's how the world works. When you have a PFA moment, it impacts on you in different ways, but I'm taking the simple HR route. HR is never simple, but for today, let's make believe that it is. So either we have a mental health issue, we have a meltdown, we don't want to talk to our co-workers, we get away from them, and we'll talk about the theme that many authors have talked on this mark, or we look for support. We call up our friends, we talk to people that we trust. The word here is trust. We may, if we are the HR, we may look out for another HR. Maybe there's an HR network, like Mohanji has very successfully created an HR network. So maybe there's an HR network. Or we reach out to a counselor. Now, Nepal does not have many qualified counselors to reach out to who will maintain confidentiality. The next thing you know, everybody knows you went through, yeah? So that is also an issue here. But you do look out for two things. So PFA, it became quite popular, as many of you would know, during World War I or the aftermath of World War I to deal with the emotional distress. And of course, PTSD was a term that came up very soon after. And then we have the 9/11, which created a traumatic moment for so many people living in the US, especially in New York near the Twin Towers. That was a major PFA moment that hit globally. And in Nepal, there have been many PFA moments. We can think of the earthquake. We can think of the post-earthquake when there was an energy or fuel crisis. We can think of COVID, and we can think of the different floods and landslides that happened over the 2 years. These all have been PFA moments for Nepal and for HR. We look at PFA when you think about first aid. Of course, first aid is the first response that we provide for the physical aspect of any injury. PFA, as the word goes, no-brainer here, is basically to guide you back into a state of mental stability through emotional support and no judgments, no questions asked. In many countries, PFA, there is a hotline for PFA that any employee can call, and there are counselors on call, and the counselor doesn't know you. You may not know the counselor, but you are free to vent or you're free to share your meltdown with that person. Even that talking about your feelings has helped prevent many, many suicides. So PFA is definitely very tangible. Nepalis are supposed to be very resilient. And many researchers wonder at the tolerance level we have. We have gone through so much, and we still have a smile on our face. And I call that the grit personality. And that's what we are, most of us here are. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here on a Saturday. Okay. To be a first responder for PFA, you do not have to be a health expert. What you do have to have is definitely empathy. You do have to have tolerance for stress, and such tolerance can come about through different personal habits as well, which many leaders also use. I do a lot of yoga. Believe me, in the line of HR, you do need a bit of my time, me time, because once you are in office, you are buffeted, literally, by so many issues for which everything else is a priority for people, but it's not on your priority because you have other tasks as well, but you have to listen to people when they come to you. And PFA is also about that. Somebody may have had, we had one of our colleagues who had come, and the reason why he wanted to meet us, and we are two who share a room, so my colleague Sabina and I, and one colleague came to in great distress. And what he mentioned was, ma'am, I don't know what to do. I think my son, and the son is about 2 years old, I think my son is dying. I don't know if I can work here. So the first thing we did, without knowing about PFA at that time, the first thing we did was ask him to sit down, gave him a glass of water, take a few deep breaths, and tell us what happened. And then he explained that one of the medical doctors had misdiagnosed and given his 2-year-old child a medicine that should not be given to a child. And now the child was in the hospital. So what did we do? We listened to him. And in the meanwhile, we reached out to our network, to a medical professional who said, send him over immediately. So this person, we mobilized the Patao, thank God for Patao these days, got him home, didn't let him drive, his motorcycle. He went home, took his baby, took his wife, rushed to the other medical professional, got it sorted out. So we've actually followed the PFA model without knowing about it. And now when you think about it, each one of you has done that one way or the other. As an HR, as a professional, as a leader, you have done that. You have listened, you have assessed the situation, you have given some suggestions, or if it is beyond your own competence, you have also referred to somebody else. Reference is not a stigma. Reference doesn't mean you are incapable. And that's what many of us feel, that if I have to refer an employee to somebody else, am I failing as an HR? You are not failing as an HR. You are simply making things easier for both you and the person concerned. In this case, we are not medical professionals. So referring the person to a different medical personnel saved his son's life. Had we sat on our ego and said, let's talk over it, etc., that chance, that golden opportunity would have been lost. So at HR, we also need to be prepared that we are not goddesses. Yeah, we are seen as goddesses with 8 hands because we are supposed to be working in 8 different things all the time, but sometimes we do have to refer to somebody who is more competent for that particular situation. World Health Organization has considered PFA as a serious component in their toolkit. And they have mentioned these 3 actions: look, listen, and link. And that's exactly how we did it in the workplace. This is for responding to emergencies out of the office. You look at the situation, assess whether or not you can go to assist. You extend your assistance in a very calm way. If they say no, you back off. But if you really feel they need help, you slowly say, maybe I can be of some help. Let me know what I can do to help, yeah? And often HR do that. Sometimes people come to the office, they sit down, they don't talk to you, but then you know that they are in trauma. So you let them take their own time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes, and then they speak up. Ma'am, I have to say something. I was harassed, and I don't know how to tell this to you. So sometimes giving them breathing space also allows them a sense of security, because if you demand too much from a person who is already suffering, they are more likely to withdraw on themselves. And as HR, the signs of distress are often on the face, but not in the words. You need to look for non-verbal gestures as much as the verbal ones, and sometimes the actions do speak louder than the words. So saying I'm harassed takes a lot of courage for somebody who has never faced that situation before. This is a PFA moment. Let me go through the WHO steps and then link this with our HR everyday life. PFA for distress, for disaster relief, is a one-time event. As HR, we may be dealing with such one-time events every day, because the one time can be for that one employee, but then there are so many employees, and each one of them may be having their PFA moments separately, but for you, it is a cumulative and continuous effort to perform. Prepare and assess. So this lady who came to me and said, ma'am, I think I have been harassed. I think I am a victim of intimidation and coercion. So obviously you have to listen to what she said. And this was horrifying. So this was in a chartered accountant firm. And of course, all names are confidential. So she had recently got a chartered accountancy. She had cleared all the exams. And one of the colleagues had not got through the exams. So this colleague was very upset that somebody else got through, who he considered to be inferior. And so he set about making life difficult for her. So when she opened her laptop, the office laptop in the morning, you couldn't take it home because of sensitive information. When she opened the laptop, she had pornographic material staring back at her. And that took her aback. So she asked the IT guy, what's happening? What's this on my laptop? And things like that kept happening. She didn't know if this was harassment or not because nobody touched her or anything, but it is harassment. And so when she came to ask us, ma'am, what should I do? This is really, I'm unable to focus on my work. And that's often one of the things that is a PFA moment. You're unable to function what you often do as a routine. You are disturbed to the extent that your other physical faculties don't work that they should. And she said, I don't know what to do. My hand was shaking, I couldn't speak. When I walked, my legs were wobbly, and I just backed away from the laptop as if it had slapped me. So this is a misconduct, a gross misconduct. This is harassment. This is a PFA moment. So not all PFA moments have to be physical. They often hit you psychologically. They hit you emotionally. They drain you of your competencies in a way that a physical blow doesn't. It is more long-lasting. Now, every time she approached her laptop, she would be very fearful of something coming at her. Yeah? This was not an easy thing to bear. The second step that we did was, okay, what's the IP address from which it was sent, what time? So the technical aspects. So we went with the IT guy. We looked at what all was being downloaded. The history had been erased, so we had to find a way to get the history back. So there was a lot of plan. There was a lot of malintent in this, which we figured out. And then we approached the person who we didn't have evidence for, but the CC camera told us that this person had been visiting the lab where he should not be visiting. So thank God for technology. And when this person was cornered and then he vented out, he had his own PFA moment. He had been promised a promotion despite or whether or not he got his CA license, and suddenly that had been revoked. So he too had been a victim of a verbal promise that never materialized. So the only person he thought of venting out was to somebody else who had got that. And so there were two people who were both victims of one situation or the other. One was warranted and one was not warranted. For the gentleman, we had requested immediate dismissal, counseling, and we also offered him to help him with his CV, his resume, because the company should not be keeping him. Interestingly, the company decided to keep him on as he would not have got another job. And he pleaded his case, he apologized, he wrote a written statement, and he did many things. The company decided to keep him on. Was it the right decision or the wrong decision? It's up to us to think about. But the fact was, they were PFA moments that sometimes come cumulatively to you. It's not one person, there were two persons that were being implicated here. When we connected him to the psychosocial counselor, he actually refused. He said, I'm not mad. I just, lost my rationality for a moment. I'm not a mad person. So there is another such challenge that HR faces, is that when we recommend a psychosocial counselor, it's often thought of, I am a mad person, I'm irrational, I'm sick, which is why I've been referred to a psychosocial counselor. There isn't much difference between a psychiatrist and a counselor that is being made here. And I think this can be a topic for training for HR, that there is a difference. There is a big difference in psychosocial counseling, how you do it, and in psychiatry and how you do it. This is pretty much self-evident. After the event, it took about 5 to 6 months for the lady who had been given the pornographic shock of her life to recover. And every time somebody mentions the word pornographic, she would cringe because her memory would have a flashback. So we asked her, what is it that we can do to help her get over it? And she said, I don't know, I really don't know, but I do get these moments when somebody talks these words, and then my hands become clammy, and I withdraw. I don't want to interact with anyone. I feel that I am being looked at and judged. And that is something that as HR, we also need to relate to, the fact that evaluation doesn't mean judging. So non-judgmental. And often we have our emotions all over our face, right? When we see, we have empathy, we have concern on our faces. Sometimes having a poker face and practicing a poker face in front of a mirror is what we need. Sometimes people don't want sympathy, they just want a listening ear. You have to listen to them with no emotion sometimes. And showing concern makes them even more emotional. So it's a matter of judging. This was an event after the Maoist movement, so 2006. This was the year 2006, and this example is coming from that long ago, when we didn't know much about PFA in Nepal. After the Maoist insurgency was over, the peace accord had been signed. Many employees where I was working out of Kathmandu offices, they called me to say, ma'am, we just can't work. Every time the door slams, we think a bullet has passed. And they were the employees who were in the cross-firing, who found themselves in the cross-firing during the Maoist period. And they had lain on the floor because the bullets were going through the windows. So they were in the house, which was right in the middle of the cross-firing between the Maoists and the security forces. So every time the window or the door banged, they thought a bullet came, and then they jumped. Yeah? So they asked, ma'am, what do? We keep feeling that there's a bullet coming, and every time the door bangs, we just jump. And we talked to a few counselors, and they said something to take their mind off work. So we looked at what they were, the leave record, the performance record, the non-verbal cues, and we realized that it is a team. It is not one person suffering. It is offices in Nepalganj, we had the office in Chittagong, in Biratnagar, all over. The employees had faced, and they needed something, and they needed something quickly. Yeah, we needed to do something quickly. So we listened to them. We listened to the office wives, what is said, what is not being said. Some were afraid that now that there's a truce, but the funds are less, so maybe there's downsizing. There were a lot of rumors flying about downsizing. So you can imagine how stressed they were. They were coming out of one trauma, and then they were pushed into the other trauma of a possible downsizing. So the first thing we did was the country director, he issued a statement that there is no downsizing. So how do leaders help? They help in bringing clarity, transparency, accountability. Yeah? They lay down the rules, they lay down information so clearly that there can be no ambiguity in the communication. So he basically said that, good morning. So they basically said, none of you will be downsized, and you have your jobs. Not only that, for those of you who went through the trauma, we do have overseas training for you, and that brought a smile, because in 2006, overseas training still had the pull for many people. So look, listen, and link. So had the project been downsizing, what we could have done as HR, many of the people who come to HR for help are actually very afraid of facing interviews. And many of us who are introverts can relate to that. So you have a downsizing coming up, your project is ending, you do panic, it is a PFA moment of sorts, it is affecting your mental health. And then you have a session on how to prepare a CV, it gives them something concrete to focus on other than their emotions. And having something to do in a moment of distress is another way that leaders of HR can assist, can enable to go over the negative with a positive. This is a checklist that I think it's available on the internet, so I won't go deeply into this. But it basically asks us whether we are ready as HR to provide PFA or not. Sometimes we ourselves have to ready Yeah, be ready for it. And we need to have certain basic checklists to do this. So this is here, and I think the slides are available, but I want to go more into this. Quiet quitting is one symptom of PFA. So we talked about cause and we talked about effect. Now we are talking of symptoms. So for an HR or for any leader to assess whether or not the team that he has or she has so carefully nurtured and cultivated members going to be leaving, if there is any sign of that, then that is a sign of quiet quitting. And you may have seen many reels, many information on the internet where it says that people actually quit before they quit. And the quitting happens when people feel that they do not have the support they need to be a high performer. The demand is for a high performer, but the support is for no performance at all. And this is how the quiet quitting happens. These are often considered to be important indicators of requiring innovation in HR or change. And many companies have done this very successfully. I'm going to, yeah. So this is another case of Uganda. So when I was in Uganda for HR secondment to assess the HR system there, I realized that they were going through recruitment crisis. And the crisis was because of HIV. Many personnel had been detected as having HIV. So imagine there is an employee who comes to you and says, and can I come in? Do I need an appointment? And you look at the face and you realize this person really needs help. And you ask them to come in, and you are in a different culture. Yeah? You are in a culture, I've been brought up in the Asian culture, and you are in an African culture trying to help them. You don't know much about their culture, and this is what many HR may also face, because even within Nepal, you have cultures and subcultures in any company. Yeah? It's not all one uniform culture, even though it's one company. So here in Uganda, this person comes in. He is probably 6'3", an ace basketball player. He comes in, he says, "Ma'am, can I close the door?" And then he starts crying. And the reason why he's crying is that he has just that very morning been diagnosed with HIV/AIDS. He has a family to support, and he doesn't know what to do. So this, even I didn't know what to do. This was my first introduction or initiation, so to speak, regarding HIV/AIDS. So I had heard about it in Nepal, but when I went there, the reality, the horror of it was absolutely, it made me dumbstruck, because there were so many people living with HIV/AIDS. This was in 2008, 7, 8. Now, this person said, "I don't know what to do. Will I be kicked off the job? What is the policy?" We didn't have a very great HIV/AIDS related policy. We had a policy for people with terminal illness, but we didn't have anything to deal with people for HIV. It called for an innovation in HR policy. It called for a strategic shift in how we look at emergencies. It called for, now we call it PFA, of course, but at that time it was look, listen, and link. So we went out to pharmaceutical companies, ARV, and antiretroviral therapies, how much it cost, how to budget it, which insurance company will give it. We went through all of that. And the same thing happened in Nepal post-COVID, when we had to look at the insurance claims by people. Many companies did not pay up because they simply couldn't. Yeah? They were stretched beyond limits. So here it calls for innovation in HR when we are in a company, when we have insurance, health insurance policy for our employees. We really need to sit down and talk to the insurance providers, because negotiation will get you many things that a black and white insurance contract will not. And this is where you have an HR edge, and HR competitiveness comes when you can provide benefits at the same cost with no additional liability to the organization, but definitely a benefit, a dividend for the employees. We had issues regarding the PFA. While this is a sudden onset, PFAs are often sudden. Yeah? A crisis, an accident is nothing you can predict. At the same time, a PFA can lead to secondary issues, and these are mental health and psychological insecurity. I'm going to talk a bit about, yes. So the lady who came to me regarding sexual harassment, she asked me, don't tell anybody I shared this with you, because if anybody knows I have come to you, my supervisor will make life hell for me, and I will have to leave my job. So the fear of retaliation gives somebody less courage to speak about a misconduct and injustice and harassment. They often will suffer in silence to a point where they break down, and then you see the PFA moment, but you don't see the moments leading up to the PFA. Flagging mistakes. You often don't flag mistakes of your supervisors, of your seniors. So leaders who practice empathy, usually we have staff meetings in many corporate organizations, and staff are less likely to raise their voices in a staff meeting. It is too public. Many organizations in the West have what they call stay interviews, and they have this as a way to, initially it started as a retention practice to find out what is working well, what is not working well, but then stay interviews started becoming more prominent after COVID to find out what work modality is working best and what is not working best. What is triggering psychological sentiments that go against the corporate strategic values? What are the working modalities that go against the sentiments of the workers or the employees who are working there? There is a fear to approach HR. And this perhaps goes back to how HR itself has evolved, starting from an admin personal role to employee champions. HR in the 1990s became champions of ROIs, or cost cutters as we call them. So HR was seen as the person who downsizes, the person who sends a letter for the layoffs. So there was a fear of going to HR because it will become expedient for them to say, okay, you are the one who should be fired. And that fear has trickled into how HR is perceived in many organizations, but not all organizations are the same. While 90% believe HR handles it inadequately. And that perhaps leads to how HR is strategic or not strategic enough to have leveraged the support of the seniors or the C-suite before. So here is an example that I got from 2023, hiring at 2023, where the head of the organization had gone out of Nepal, and he had verbally shared to the HR that you can hire, I'm giving you that authority, you can hire and approve, and it's fine with me. Unfortunately, the person that the HR hired was not somebody that the director would have liked to be hired. So when the director came back, he basically retracted the offer letter. And now the HR was in her own PFA moment because the commitment had been given to the staff, and then when the director was told that, all files had been sent to him, the emails had been sent to him, everything had been sent to him, and he had just said, go ahead. And so she went ahead. And this happened in such a situation that the person who was coming in was a very competent person. But for some reason, the director did not want. So this lady wrote a letter to the board of directors. And she was able to leverage the support of the board of directors to overturn that decision once again. This showed one thing very clearly, that HR often do not network within the organization. HR are sometimes so competent in themselves that they forget to network. And leveraging support is one of the most important things you can do to be a better tackler for PFA situations. Two concepts and then I'll stop. This was a theme that developed in the early 2000s, and Paul Hemp was an author who wrote a very interesting narrative for an article for the Harvard Business Review, and he talked of presenteeism. his narrative can actually be linked to PFA, even though he didn't intend it to be a PFA moment. He talked about presenteeism, which is more dangerous than absenteeism. And I think some of you may have already guessed what this may be. So presenteeism is when you are present physically, but you are not really performing. And there can be a multitude of reasons behind it. In his article, he's written about health, physical health conditions, mental health conditions, and how people simply went to office to save a leave day or to save or prevent salary deduction. And we have often seen in our own context of employees who are sniffling, struggling through flu, coming to office, and when you ask them, "Kina aako?" के गर्ने घर बसेर पनि के गर्ने yeah? So often it is that it is better to come home and chat and forget about my flu, and in the meanwhile pass it on to a few people I don't like in the office, then I can sleep easy. Jokes apart, this is a trend, yeah? And often flu can lead to other ailments, or flu, you're coming to office, you are coming for your sake, yeah, but sometimes it is taking a toll on your health because you are not getting the time to actually heal properly physically, and that leads to your mental issues as well. Now, when you think of the cost, in his article, he wrote about the cost being 2 to 10 times higher than absenteeism. When you are absent, the organization prepares in your absence an alternative. But when you are physically present, but not really present, the organization cannot have an alternative because they don't know you are not at your peak performance. And so presenteeism has, in the post-COVID world, become one of the distress signals, I would say, that HR are often very quick to notice. I think I will skip this and go to the next one. 10 years after Paul Hemp, we had another interesting book, and this gentleman has written several books. And if you get a chance, do read it. It's now available in Nepal also. So Suman Shakya talked about how leaders can approach psychological safety. And he talked about this using military parallels. So there is this military captain who is flying below the clouds, below the radar, to rescue his team members who have been caught in a war. And while this is in 2014-15, you can hear the resonance of it even during this current Iran war. So what Suman Shakya mentioned was, if the leaders are clear, and this can be an HR leader, it can be the executive, it can be anyone in a leadership position, if the leaders are clearly protecting or protective of the team members are less likely to have stronger reactions to PFA moments. In other words, if you have a leader who genuinely supports you, listens to you, is emotionally resilient, has solutions rather than blaming you, then that individual is more likely to recover from a PFA moment because of the psychological safety, or what he calls the circle of safety. He also mentions that if psychological safety that was present is suddenly withdrawn, it escalates toxicity in the workplace like nothing else. So if you've had a leadership transition, many of you would know exactly what this means. If the earlier leader had the empathy, and the new leader who has a lot to prove within her probation period or his probation period will be less likely to be empathetic because they have their own KPIs to do. At that time, how can the HR cope? Because problems will not stop coming. And this is a critical moment for HR to leverage support during a new leadership transition. And it happens more often than you think. He talks about hormones and how this affects workplace behavior, and how as leaders we should be quick to identify which hormones are missing. Now, this is not very easy for us to do, but we do know that a smile that does not meet the eye is not a real smile. We know a laughter that is too loud hides something deep inside. He talks about how dopamine and oxytocin are basically precursors to innovation, to risk-taking, and to improvements that go beyond any actual measurement or concreteness. He talks about how serotonin and endorphin are important. And so in many offices, we had recommended, and we had done this we had done a training in NMB for, again, sensitization regarding sexual harassment and high performance, and they had gone together. And we had suggested, many of you at NMB have such amazing targets. Do you fulfill it? And they said that, ma'am, we live in stress every day, and sometimes we enjoy it, and sometimes it really drains us. So we said, why don't you keep some almonds and pistachios and, keep something, pumpkin seeds, just to have. And then one person, after 2 or 3 months, he called in and said, ma'am, it worked wonders. And I said, why? Because it gave you the protein? He said, no, because when I was grinding it with my teeth, I imagined it was my boss. So it helped me a lot. So I have recommended this to everyone. So everyone has their own reasons for using a certain tactic or a tool, but the end result, if it works, and there's a saying in Hindi also, ant bhala to sab bhala, right? A video, so can I help? This is a video by Suman Shakya. It's a short interview that he had. It's interesting. It reinforces what we had just discussed because it is his words that we were going into.
I think the word vulnerability scares a lot of people, especially in business. Nobody wants to be vulnerable. Nobody wants to share their weaknesses. Why would I do that? It'll hurt my promotability. I don't want to be humiliated, So I think first and foremost, we have to define what it means. This is why I like terms like psychological safety or circle of safety, that we have to build circles of safety. And I don't need to use the word vulnerable because then I end up having a semantic debate with someone. So when we talk about being in a circle of safety or feeling psychological safety or being vulnerable, what that means is, and I think we have to be declarative about what it means by the way of example. What it means is that I can raise my hand and say, I made a mistake, or I don't understand, or I don't think I have enough training to do the job you're asking me to do, or I need help without any fear of humiliation or retribution. In fact, I can say these things with absolute confidence that someone will rush in to support me, whether it's my colleagues or my leader. And we've all been on a team where we have that. Unfortunately, we've also all been on a team where you'll never admit a mistake, you'll never admit any gap in intelligence or something you don't know, you'll never admit you don't have enough training, you'll never ask for help because it will get you humiliated or affect your promotability. And so if we can talk about the fact that we've all built like that and we'd rather work in situations like this, then we have to reward that behavior. When you express that you don't know something or ask for help, that's a good thing. Also, I think people make a big mistake where expressing vulnerability is not the same as being vulnerable. Expressing weakness is not the same as being weak. So for example, if you sat in a meeting and you went, I don't understand this. I need somebody to explain this to me. I don't know this, right? There's no way you're inspiring confidence in your company. But if you simply own it, like, hey, I don't understand a single word of this deck. If somebody can please just explain it to me because I'm the complete idiot and I don't understand any of this tech stuff, that would be really helpful. And if you just say it with confidence, if you own it, it's the confidence that's inspiring, not the expression of the weakness. So I think if you're confident in your weakness and you serve as that example, it allows others to do the same, also rewarding the behavior. In other words, when somebody asks for help, recognize, point it out, and say, yes, more of that, please. Because I think the incentive structures and reward structures affect people's behavior as well.
This is a moment that perhaps all of us go through. How do we express a need for help? So sometimes we express a need for help by saying that, I don't know how to do this, can you help me? In our culture, expressing that need for help is often taken as a weakness. But as Mr. Shakya said, it doesn't have to be. It depends how you package your weakness. It depends how you present it. Do you present it as a weakness, or do you present it as a point of learning? So if PFA is something very new to us, then we can definitely learn about it. It is not a weakness because it's an area of improvement. We talked about presenteeism, and let's see how PFA and presenteeism go together. So PFA is not only a first responder. PFA can also, and we are developing this in our culture, PFA can be of help even before presenteeism sets in. So presenteeism, now you know, is when people are apathetic, they are not fully into their work, and knowing the science makes it easier for you to be a first responder. Yeah? There may not be people coming to you and saying, you know, I'm not being able to work today, or I'm having this migraine attack that is simply agonizing and I can't work today. They can't take leave, but they can come and talk to you, and you can make it easier for them to come and talk to you. Psychological safety. This is something that is really, really important for many of us in Nepal, because we have contractual obligations, and sometimes we have to go beyond our contractual obligations simply to survive. So you may have a job description, and you may have tasks that goes beyond the job description, but many of us may not be questioning why work is piled on us simply because we are competent. We don't often question that. We just accept it. So I'm sure many of us who signed the JD on the first day put it in a drawer, and we hardly look at it, because we shape our work, not the other way around. And sometimes we have moved so far ahead of our JD that when our post comes up for a vacancy, nobody is found, because our JDs and the tasks we have accomplished don't really match. We have a culture often of trying to escape being made a scapegoat, so we tend to shift the blames on somebody else. So one way of being non-judgmental for a PFA is not saying you, but making it a third person, or making it depersonalizing the incident. Sometimes that also helps. So let's say somebody comes up to you and says that, you know, I simply can't work with this coworker anymore, and I am so stressed that I think I am going to resign. It is a PFA moment because drastic distress is happening there. Now, instead of blaming the other worker, instead of blaming the person coming, it helps if you have a third person objectivity into it. So perhaps you can begin like, all right, let's talk about some situations in which you have, or some situations that has triggered this negative emotion. So you are avoiding you're avoiding she or he who is a co-worker, and that also helps as a leader for you to keep an objectivity, a distance from the incident. And this distancing is very important because you as HR also go through emotional trauma when you listen to stories of distress. I think, yeah. Now, the reason why PFA, knowing how to administer PFA or knowing how to deal with things before they become a PFA moment is so important, because as you can see with the numbers here, engagement, productivity, and satisfaction. The numbers are regarding this, and as HR we know, motivation, morale, I mean, we have heard these things so many times, and numbers show that it is true. The more engaged you as HR are with your employees, the less likely you will have to witness PFA moments. And engagement does not necessarily mean talking to the person face to face. It can be different trainings, it can be short surveys, it can be dashboard check-ins. How are you feeling today? One company, and I think it was Emcee, they asked their employees at the beginning of the day to select an emoji to express the emotion, and at the end of the day, select another emoji to express the emotion. And they basically wanted to see the distance between the two emojis. Do you start with a smile and end with a frown, or vice versa? Or what are the emotions that are playing in your mind? And then, of course, that would go to the HR, who would instantly say, oh, the 3-year contracts are coming up. No wonder everybody is stressed out. So this is one example of how you can preempt less moments of PFA. There are many examples of Satya Nadella being one of the most empathetic leaders, and a reason behind why Microsoft is doing so well. It can be there can be other examples that from Nepal I can share. Unilever, even before COVID and during COVID, Unilever had telecommuting that they promoted. And one of the HR managers there who we talked to, she worked from Pokhara, and Unilever offices are here in Kathmandu. And she was allowed telecommuting because she was also having to have some personal issues in Pokhara, and she dealt with it through this policy. Procter & Gamble globally, and now even some of the office representatives in Nepal talk about disability inclusion is a major part. MAW, employee potential, is given so much of value that people who worked in MAW, even when they move to a different job, they remember MAW as the best organization that they worked in. Sipradi, HR is extremely strong there, and the team is amazing there. So the other thing that comes to mind is if you are working by yourself in the HR, one of the things that you may want to think about is expanding your team. HR cannot work by themselves. They do need support themselves, yeah? So having more than one person in an HR is definitely going to be more effective. Bharpatini, would it have been helped if they had a counselor on hand? Probably. So many employees lost the job. So many employees had to wait for weeks before announcement came that they will not be losing their jobs. Perhaps a counselor would have been most effective. And I had a chance to talk to one of the CTVT's directors, Ramhari Lamichane, and I asked him about the counseling, and he said, you know, we do have a training in CTVT or TVET for counselors, but then it is not really used because the more you practice counseling, the more you become better counselors. So it's not just training that is needed, it is that more people should be using counselors for counselors to be more adept at what they do. So it's almost like using Excel. If you don't use it, you forget it, yeah? And this is also an art as well as a science. I am going to think, okay. Some of the examples that HR have shared regarding how they preempted PFA is, of course, thanks to COVID, a flexi work hour, flexi work schedule, adjusting the JDs, special leave for self-care, ergonomic distress triggers. So if you have a very uncomfortable chair you're sitting on for 8 hours, it may actually trigger a PFA moment. Online meetings and having it mandatory, the webcam to be open, has been seen as a major stressor for many employees. You have processual, procedural, and operational aspects for PFA as well. And then the other concept that is slowly gaining ground is universal design. So universal design basically refers to a design which is present no matter what. And this helps for HR to plan or basically strategize for their work. So is telecommuting part of your HR flexi work modalities or not? If it is not, if you can consider it, it becomes part of the universal design. It is always there as a package, and you can pick and choose as per the situation. Training for PFA, as if HR didn't have enough on its plate, there's one more for you. So being a counselor is there, or have a counselor on standby, network and call some counselors over for a discussion, get that network going. Regular check-ins. Deloitte had a very interesting case. When it was restructuring, many employees wanted to leave, but they didn't. And one of the reasons was because Deloitte had shifted to a very traditional performance management where you could not share what you did well, what went wrong. There were just numbers and KPIs. And then they moved to what they call a continuous performance assessment, where there were conversations besides having the annual checkups, as they call it. And this removed biases. This removed what they call idiosyncratic effect of the person rating you. And it lowered the cortisol for many employees. Because if you are seen as a biased supervisor, same as me, different than me, you have all these HR biases and errors that you make in performance appraisal, if the supervisor was rating you impartially, you would be less stressed during performance appraisals. And so the annual PFA moments during performance appraisals was removed, not because of a 360-degree appraisal, which is also a misnomer, but because they were able to capture critical incidents that showcase your talent and competency. So this, I think, will end my presentation here. Let me go to the last slide about CQ now. One person asked me, ma'am, I am such an introvert as HR. And I was preparing this last week, so I was talking to my HR friends as to, have you heard of PFA? What have you done regarding PFA? And one person said, ma'am, I am such a provincial. I don't want to go outside my HR comfort zone. I'm very happy with my filing and this and that. I don't really like going out there. And that made me think. And then I reached out to 2 other HR people. And one of them said, I love talking, ma'am, but I hate documentation. When it comes to reporting, I am the last person to send the report in, but I'm the first one to get the job done. And this made me come across what I called cultural intelligence for PFA. So all of us have a combination of these characters. We are either provincial, or we are a chameleon, or an ambassador. And these are the different types that the 2 authors, Early and Ang, proposed in 2003. They did not propose it for PFA, but I'm using it because it resonates with many of our characteristics. So some of us are provincial. We are great within a familiar culture. We don't want to step out of it because we are good at what we are doing. As an analyst, we can get the results natural. We don't know much, but then we are very good at reading a situation. Ambassador, we may not know the culture, but we can convince people that we are great at what we do. Most of us are ambassadors. Mimic, we are very quick to pick up on the cues of how to get things. So let's say you're talking about an issue with a supervisor and the person is difficult to convince. You start speaking the supervisor's language so that she or he understands. Yeah, you are a mimic that way. Or you are a chameleon. You are like a local. So as an HR, we perhaps have to package ourselves depending on where we are, which culture we are speaking to, because you have a C-suite culture, we have a mid-level culture, you have subcultures in your own company. All right, a small quiz. So if somebody comes to you to share a PFA moment, and you have in an organization an incident reporting form, do you think you should be using it? Yes? Yes, you should be using it. People are not very sure. Actually, you shouldn't be using it at that moment. If somebody has come up to share a momentous incident, you need to let them to speak and not get them into administrative work. So having a form is great, but getting them to fill it out may not be very sensitive. Now, this was really interesting. There are some companies, and this is in Europe as well as Australia and US, where they have two-sided cups. Because when people come in a panic mode and you give them water, the glass often shatters. It slips out of their hands because their hands are so clammy. So they've come up with a two-sided cup, and I thought that was very interesting. So you are giving somebody water, and then you are giving them in a cup which is less likely to fall out of their hands. They can regain their composure. So sometimes something very simple and practical like having a mug like this, or having not having a slippery glass that is fancy, but is of no use to somebody who is in shock. Scheduling an appointment is also a no-no. Thank you. That time is up, yeah? Calm offer. Somebody comes to you and you look at your mobile and you're listening, I'm listening, and then you're looking at your mobile. Is one of the worst things you can do, but many of us may have this addiction of doing this. So in terms of a recap, when we look at PFA, it is something that is coming up very strongly for us as HR to deal with. And it is something that we don't have to do it by ourselves. Believe me, you can reach out for help for this. And the more you have your network strong and robust, the better you are at assessing with PFA. Because somebody who comes to you for help, or some people who come to you for help, they will never forget how you made them feel, right? So with this, thank you for listening and being patient.
Do we have any questions? All right, we'll be taking just 2 of them. Can we have our volunteers help with the mic?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nirmala, and I work for Helvetas. First of all, thank you so much, ma'am, for your presentation. This was really relevant and insightful for me. I see one line in your presentation that all managers are HR manager. So I belong to that group. I'm not a dedicated HR person, but I manage the program, and I have a team to manage. So there was a next slide which was talking about the presentism. So my experience is related with that. One of my team member who was performing very good, after a few months he started, like his performance went down. And when I tried sitting with him and when I started talking with him, he said that he is having some serious mental issue. So his performance gone to 0, and we tried talking so many times, like could not figure out any way out. So at the end, like we connected him with counselors, and then later he also visited with psychiatrists, and then like he was going through some medications and counseling and everything. But what happened is, like at a point he picked up his performance. He started performing very good, and then again after a few months his performance dropped down. This happened consecutively for more than 3 years. Like somewhere he was picking up the performance and then again dropping down. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a dedicated HR person. I am a program manager as well. So I have a workload to manage, and the guy who is managing a very big portfolio is going all those, ups and down through his maybe the mental issues or some other kind of issues. We tried from the part of the organization. I also tried individually to support him. So what I'm looking from you is like, how do I balance when I have to manage the program also, and I have a people to manage at the same time? Because if I would be a dedicated HR person, then maybe I would be more concerned about only the staff health and everything. But there is the performance associated with me, and if he is not being able to perform for more than 3 years, how do I manage that workload and how do I tackle that situation? This was the practical that I faced in my workplace. So like, I want to know from you, like how can I behave or how can I act nicely and appropriately in such situation? Thank you.
Thank you for asking such a tough question. This perhaps has echoes in other organizations. So there are a couple of things that come to mind. One is looking at the JD and looking at how many of the tasks can be taken on by somebody else. It also could mean a salary adjustment. Sometimes people can't take the pressure. And so discussing, you need to first find out whether or not if a JD needs to be recalibrated, moving KPIs to some other worker, or other colleague for a temporary period before it gets back. And for that temporary period, the colleague will, of course, expect a remuneration, because it's added. And the person from whom it's being taken away may have a certain salary cut. That's one, cut and dried. The second thing is looking at the team where the person is working. And if the person is also by himself or herself managing one unit, then you can think of what we call a job share. It means getting two people on board, sharing the salary, giving the person time to heal, and the person who comes on board will have a limited term employment so that it gives a person time to recover and also time to see if this job is really for him or not. Sometimes helping them give options also helps them make a decision. So helping the person make a decision instead of in limbo could be another way. A third way is ask around if this, the position that you're looking into, how has the trajectory been? Have people before in this position also left? Has it been a position of high turnover historically in that organization, or is it a new position? So that also may make a difference. If it is a position historically with a high turnover, it is telling you something.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dyuti ma'am. Your presentation was amazing, very well versed. We absolutely enjoyed it. And thank you for highlighting the psychological aspects of organization and how a leader should support employees on stress management and importance of physical activity, helping them balance work and their personal life at the same time. Mental health is such a taboo, and I'm so glad that we've started talking about it openly and bringing this topic into discussion and prioritizing. We really appreciate it, and not just for HR professionals, but for humankind overall. Thank you, ma'am, for being here today. Now, may I request Ms. Samjana ma'am to kindly honor Ms. Dyuti with token of appreciation on behalf of Growth Sellers and HR Meet 2026. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the second session of the day 2. This session we will be discussing on the skills revolution, bringing today's skill and tomorrow's technology, where we also explore about how organizations can adapt to rapid technological change by enabling continuous learning, reskilling, and people development. And to moderate this particular session, we have the founder, Tangent Waves, Mr. Suman Shakya here with us. A big round of applause for him. He is an entrepreneur, consultant, and certified trainer with nearly 3 decades of experience. He's widely recognized for his contributions to entrepreneurship and innovation in Nepal and has worked with organizations such as the World Bank and USAID. He continues to mentor and support emerging entrepreneurs and leaders across the region. Thank you, sir, for being here today. To join as panelists, we were expecting Dr. Mahananda Chalise here today, but due to his health conditions, he couldn't attend the event today, but he has sent his best regards for all of us. Next, to join the panel, may I invite Vice President of the Solti Group, Mr. Sudarshan Chapagai. A big round of applause, everybody. With over 15 years of experience, Mr. Chapagai oversees strategic growth and operations of Solti Group. He has played a key role in expanding the brand internationally and transitioning it into a self-managed entity. He is also actively involved in hospitality, education, and industry leadership through GATE and HAN. Next, I would like to invite to join the panel advisor TVET and Skill Development South and Southeast Asia, Swiss contact, Dr. Usha Bhandari here with us. A big round of applause, please. Dr. Bhandari is a leading expert in vocational education and skills development with extensive experience working with governments and international organizations. Her work focuses on strengthening vocational systems, promoting inclusion, and improving employment opportunities across Nepal and the other regions. Now with that, over to our moderator.
Right. Good morning, everyone. When I was called up to do this moderation for the topic, I felt, wow, this is the right time to do it. Mostly because my daughter is finishing her +2, and she has been thinking about what to do. So as an individual where I also help other young individuals to think about their career and so on and so forth, I have been at a loss as to what I should tell my daughter. Because whatever skills or whatever things that we are learning, it may not be relevant in the next decade, or it may not be relevant in the next 5 years or so. So the skills revolution, bridging today's skill with tomorrow's technology, became all the more interesting. And I'm here to learn from a wonderful panelist here, and also we'll have time for question and answers from the audience as well. So bear with me. We are living through a moment where technology is changing faster than organizations, and organizations are changing faster than people can comfortably absorb. Wherever we look, there is excitement about artificial intelligence, digital platforms, automation, analytics, and new tools. But beneath that excitement is the very human question, will our people feel ready? Because the real challenge is not just technology adoption, it is whether institutions can help people stay relevant. Change is happening around them. They need to be confident, employable, and motivated as they work around. The winners in this transition will not simply be the organizations with the most advanced technology. They will be the ones that are best at turning learning into culture, reskilling into opportunity, and uncertainty into confidence. Today, we are fortunate to have a panel that represents three critical parts of this puzzle when we first started out, and we had discussed amongst ourselves what to do. Unfortunately, Dr. Chalice is not here. Otherwise, we would have heard from him about higher education, from what TU is doing, and one from the business and the industry leadership, and one from technical and vocational skill systems. Together, whatever time we have, we will help examine a vital question. How do we build a workforce that is not only digitally enabled, but also humanly supported, practically skilled, and future ready? So what I've tried to do is, because we have ample time, divided this question and answer session into 3 parts, and we'll go deeper with each round. And that's what I think. It may not be as what they think as well. But the first round would be maybe bridging or defining the gap as to what is there, and then we move along. We have had this discussion in English as we started out, but I feel that for the audience, Nepali should also work. Ani wherever it is possible, हामीले दुईटै ल्याङ्ग्वेजलाई अगाडि लिएर जानु पाए राम्रो हुन्छ होला. So एउटा कमन क्वेसन तपाईहरुलाई दुवैजनालाई सायद मैले प्रोफेसर चालिसेलाई पनि सोध्न लागेको क्वेसनहरू मिलाइकन हजुरहरूलाई पनि राखौँला अनि you can share your thoughts along with it. When we look at challenges, this is for you, हाम्रो सुदर्शनजीलाई. From an employer's perspective, when young professionals enter your organization, where do you see the biggest gaps? Is it skills, is it mindset, or adaptability?
Thank you, Sumanji. Good morning, everyone. It's not a beautiful morning, but very exciting for me because I think this topic which we are discussing today is very important for us, for this part of the world and the industry. I see young professionals, ready to be professionals for tomorrow out here in the morning today. So this is very vague. What we're discussing today is very vague. We cannot categorize it. I think specifically categorize गर्न सकिन्न जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई हैन. As of today, what we see is the world is changing very quickly, and the technology is changing very quickly, very, very quickly. I was discussing to one of my friends. I'll start with one of the examples here. This artificial intelligence, it is very vague. हामी सबैलाई थाहा छ यो कुरा. So we actually don't know even 5-10% out of it. We don't know how to use it. That's what the problem is. 6 months down the line, six months before, or 1 year before, there were a lot of IT companies in Nepal, which were doing, in fact, coding business, a lot of coding business. They were doing the coding. So America, but even India, but there were a lot of apps being created, platforms being created. So now what has happened is that coding is done by artificial intelligence. And all of a sudden, within months or within days, the job of those coders are redundant. And they even didn't know that our job is going to be redundant, will be replaced. So that I'm just trying to deepen here how volatile the situation is. So now today this is the gap. This is the biggest gap. We don't know where we are heading towards. We can talk a lot, but we don't know exactly how the situation is going to be after a month. So now adaptability, in fact, is the first condition and the first skill we all have to develop. The industries, be it the employer or be it the employees. And now the response to the change in the environment. We cannot take long to adapt. We have to be quick. That is the second condition. Now, coming to your question, what is the gap? Where do you see the gap? Either in the skill or the mindset. I think in both areas there are gaps. What is happening is there are degrees. People come with MBA degrees, bachelor's degree, or even the technical degrees for that matter. But actual work level experiences are not there. And it's happening. In fact, one of our colleges where we have investments, IT colleges, they're going for internship and industries are rejecting them. Why? Because we are not teaching them as per the need of the organization, as per the need of the industry. So they are just teaching, the institutions are teaching what we used to teach traditionally or contemporary. The change is not there. In fact, I'll not blame anybody for that because the situation is like that. The change is happening so rapidly. So now we have to have that quick adaptability in our system, be it in the education system, be it in the skill development system, be it in employers' hiring system, be it in employers' training and learning and development system, and be it in the mindset of the employees as well. So another gap is the mindset. Employees or employers, they don't want to learn. The practice of learning has changed. So we have to accept. So I was just listening to the presentation ma'am had recently, before. She just mentioned about, we have to accept the fact first that we have to learn. That acceptability is not there. And there should be a system of continuous learning. So it's a both. There's a big gap between the academic degree and the practical work level skills that is needed. And also the learning mindset. So both are there.
Thank you, Sudarshanji. I think we touched upon a lot of issues about how, from an employee's perspective, what the organization is looking at. We talked about first the adaptability. Nowadays, you need to be adaptable. And what I liked about what he said was, it's not just from the employee side, but also from the employer side that they need to continue to learn. And definitely the mindset part. But while you were answering that question and also listening to Dr. Baral a little while ago, in Nepal, we always talk about there's a mismatch in what is being taught and what is required in the industry. So has there been any efforts made? This is such a big platform. It has been running for years, or HR Meet. Has there been any effort where, because we know there is a gap, that it existed when the employers start to hire people from graduates from Nepali universities, they say that you are not good enough. So what does that not good enough mean? Is there a mismatch in the education part, or has there been efforts before?
Yeah, I think, I don't know actually whether there is a change or not, but I certainly know there is awareness. Now we can discuss that, okay, there is a gap, previously it was not there. Now we have diagnosed the problem. The problem is there is a gap. Yeah? And in the recent time, we've been discussing about it a lot. I think that's step number one. So in order to implement that, there are a lot of things. In fact, it has to start from maybe from the curriculum change, maybe training to the faculty members itself, So that is very important because the way of teaching has changed. So that has to change. And third is we have to have a system within the organization where we have to clearly list down the requirements, what kind of people we want. We are also confused. So we have also not changed our system in HR. We have not changed our system. We don't actually know, like Daksha was telling before, we signed the JD, on the first day, and the JD just it's a formality of signing.
It's a piece of paper.
It's a piece of paper. It goes inside the drawer and never be, reiterated or checked whether it is followed or not. Or we don't push ourselves to change the JD. So now we have realized the problem. That's a problem. There is a problem. And I think some kind of changes are there. Because see, today what is happening is we cannot wait. Industries, it has become so competitive. Like I'm from the hospitality industry, right? So 30 years before, or even 10 years before, the competition was very less. We were just 4 or 5 five-star hotels in Nepal, right? And there was no competition as such. We're just ruling the roost all the time. Now, if you see today, there are more than 30 five-star hotels, right? So we cannot wait to make the employees learn the skills and make them work their job, do their job. We don't have that patience. If we start doing that, then we'll lose the business. And once you lose the business, it's very difficult for you to regain the business again. So there is no patience, right? So that's why it has become very, so now what we're doing, if the employee is not good, we just fire them. We just tell them you're not fit, you gain the skill, and you come back. This is what is happening in the industry. We want the best. And then what is happening is now employees are also being frustrated, you know, because we don't know what actually needs to be done in order to rectify all this. Now, what has happened is, I, as an employer, would rather prefer a person with less academic qualification with better practical skills. So now we have to focus on those areas. Academics is needed, but at the same time, we need ground level skills to work, to do the job done, for the job done. This is what I think we have to.
Yep, from very grounded industry reality that you need to get the work done. It's not just the marks that counts, but how you do it. But I think there would be some examples from individuals who are part of the organization as to what good steps have been taken. यहाँ राम्रो काम पनि पक्कै भएको होला, सुदर्शनजीले भन्नुभएकोमा के थप गर्न चाहनुहुन्छ भने पछि हाम्रो क्वेसन आन्सर सेसनमा तपाईले थप्दा पनि हुन्छ, या तपाईहरुको संस्थामा यसरी हामीले काम गरिरहेका छौं जहाँनिर यो ग्यापलाई मिनिमाइज गर्नको लागि के गर्ने, हैन, व्हाट डु वी डु टु मिनिमाइज द ग्याप भन्ने कुरा पनि तपाईहरुले राख्न चाहनुहुन्छ अनि राख्न चाहनुहुन्छ. So I'll turn to Dr. Usha Bandari. Should I call you Dr. Usha? Is that right? Okay. She brings along such long history and experience from the training and vocational education background, from the ecosystem itself. You know, for you, what does this gap look like when you are trying to prepare people for employability?
Thank you so much, and very good morning to all of you. First, I echo with Sudarshanji. He rightly pointed out what are the gaps and where are the gaps actually, and thank you so much for bringing this in this platform. Of course, there are lots of gaps actually. That is what the whole debate ecosystem talks about. So where are the gaps? Gaps is in the curricula. Gaps is in the translation of curricula, you know, when curricula means curriculum, right?
Curriculum.
Which is supposed to be developed by, you know, it's supposed to be co-created by education providers and employment providers together actually. But it is not happening in Nepal. Most of the time, curriculums are prepared by those so-called experts. Not necessarily they are experts actually, because curriculum must be aligned with the labor market demand, right? But what happens with the experts' mind actually? They are not in the labor market actually. They are of course experts, they are vidwanharu, right? So intellects are there, but can talk about theory much more than they supposed to have a practical experience. So that is why big gap is in curriculum. So when we talk about curriculum, curriculum does not come from, you know, ISL actually. There are competency standards, different types of competencies that, each competency, these competencies are in each occupation. And kalle bhन्छ त्यो occupations? Occupations comes from the employers. Employers knows that what types of people they need, what types of skills they need. किनभने अघि उहाँले सुदर्शनजीले भन्नुभयो हैन, it's rapidly change भइरहेको छ. Labor market is not static. It is very, very dynamic. Not necessarily all the time same skills are taught, same skills are required, हैन. उहाँ होटल बिजनेसको भएको हुनाले, I don't know whether I pronounced it correctly, chicken cordon bleu, huh? Is that correct? So what it is actually, यस्तो खालको कुराहरू सिक्नुपर्छ भनेदेखि, whether these types of things are included in the curricula, whether these are in, if these are in demand, उहाँहरुको कस्टमरले त त्यो माग्छ नि त. Whether the cooks, professional cook prepare गरेको छ जुन करिकुलाले, whether they can prepare that. फेरि त्यो पकाउने मात्र पनि होइन, त्यसको त टोटल त्यो होटलको चेनमा नै त्यो के भन्छ रे, त्यो इकोसिस्टममा नै थुप्रै खालका कुराहरू आउँछ नि, त्यसलाई सर्भ गर्नेदेखि लिएर सबै आउँछ भनेपछि all those things should be in curricula. So one of the biggest gap is in curriculas, because curriculums are not prepared by employers representative. मैले फेरि सुदर्शनजीले आएर तयार गर्नुपर्छ भने हैन, because they have expert workers, they have expert कोमी, सेफ के जाति, right? So they supposed to send those people to develop those standards and curricula. अलिकति यहाँनिर इम्प्लोयर्सको साइडबाट पनि अलिकति ग्याप देख्छु म चाहिँ. के ग्याप छ भने, whenever इम्प्लोयर्सको चाहिँ रिप्रेजेन्टेटिभ बोलाउँदाखेरि they rarely send their expert workers actually. You know, कसलाई पठाइन्छ भने यस्तै खालको मिटिङ सिटिङलाई सिटिभिटीले बोलायो अथवा कसले बोलायो काम नलाग्ने जो चाहिँ त्यहाँ अलि ठकठाक गर्छ उसलाई चाहिँ गो भनेर पठाइन्छ बट द्याट पर्सन इज नट एक्सपर्ट वर्कर्स सो त्यस्तो हुँदाखेरि अर्को लेभलको ग्याप पनि त्यहाँनिर तयार भएको हुन्छ त्यो भयो करिकुलाको अर्को रह्यो डेलिभरीमा बिकज डेलिभरी इज डन बाई दोज पिपल दोज ब्याचलर्स डिग्री मास्टर्स डिग्री हु नेभर ह्याभ प्र्याक्टिकल एक्सपिरियन्सेस जसले त्यो चिकन कर्डन ब्लू भन्ने कहिले देखेकै छैन पकाएकै छैन किताबमा पढेको भरमा हाउ क्यान ही अर सी टिच द्याट राइट सो प्र्याक्टिसेस चाहिँ छँदै छैन प्र्याक्टिकल न उसले डेमोन्स्ट्रेसन गर्न सक्छ न उसले स्टुडेन्ट्सलाई प्र्याक्टिसहरू गराउन सक्छ मोस्ट अफ द टाइम वेन वी टक अबाउट इम्प्रुभमेन्ट इन टिबेट सिस्टम we say now we need infrastructure, we need a nice lab. तर त्यो lab किन चाहियो? Because lab is very, very expensive. If you have a connections with industries, industry will provide that opportunity. त्यस कारण पढाउने तरिका सिकाइदैन कि पढाइन्छ अनि ल्याबहरू खडा गरिन्छ अनि त्यो ल्याब बिग्रिन्छ भनेर त्यो ल्याबलाई यस्तो छोपछाप गरेर राखिन्छ सो त्यो डेलिभरीमा त्यो ग्याप छ एसेसमेन्टमा ठुलो ग्याप छ एसेसमेन्ट कसले गर्छ अगेन दोज सो कल एक्सपर्ट्स who have theoretical knowledge त्यो पनि एकदमै कति वर्ष अगाडि सिकेको अपडेटेड नलेज होइन अनि एसेसमेन्ट गर्दाखेरि त इम्प्लोयर्सले वाट टाइप्स अफ ह्युमन रिसोर्सेस दे निड दे नो द्याट हाउ टु एसेस देम वाट टाइप्स अफ स्किल्स एन्ड कम्पिटेन्सी एन्ड एटिट्युड्स टु बी एसेस्ड दे नो बेटर देन दोज सोकल एक्सपर्ट्स सो दिज आर बेसिकली मेजर ग्याप्स इन द होल टिबेट इकोसिस्टम यसमा चाहिँ सबैभन्दा इम्पोर्टेन्ट कुरा भनेको चाहिँ इम्प्लोयर्सको इन्भल्भमेन्ट इज भेरी लेस अफकोर्स इन रिपोर्ट्स अफकोर्स इन पेपर अफकोर्स इन फोरम वी से द्याट इम्प्लोयर्सले लेड गरेको छ इम्प्लोयर्स लेड सिस्टम छ बट दिस इज ह्यापनिङ भेरी भेरी लेस
डाक्टर उषाले भन्नुहुँदा यदि इन्डस्ट्रीलाई चाहिन्छ भने र इन्डस्ट्रीले त्यस्ता विज्ञहरू जो प्र्याक्टिकली काम गर्नुभएको छ तपाईको विचारमा किन नपठाउनु भएको होला किनभने उहाँहरूलाई नै चाहिने हो नि हैन
एकदम भेरी गुड क्वेसन फर्स्ट यसमा चाहिँ दुईटा कुरा छ एउटा चाहिँ ट्रस्ट यो सिस्टम कसरी गयो भने अहिलेसम्मको सिस्टम चाहिँ भेरी मच ट्रेडिसनल ओपिनियनबाट ड्रिभन भयो सरी टु से दिस लिट विथ लाउडर बट दिस इज ट्रु ट्रेडिसनल ओपिनियनबाट ड्रिभन भयो अनि के भयो थाहा छैन तर त्यो सिस्टमलाई चाहिँ यो ट्रस्ट चाहिँ बिल्डिङ भएन एजुकेसन प्रोभाइडर्स र इम्प्लोइमेन्ट प्रोभाइडर्सको बिचको ट्रस्ट बिल्डिङ भएन एउटा सेकेन्ड चाहिँ के भयो भने डकुमेन्ट्स आर प्रिपेयर्ड करिकुलाज आर प्रिपेयर्ड बट ड्युरिङ द इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन्स त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ फेरि त्यो सपोर्ट खोजिएन इम्प्लोयर्सको इन्भल्भमेन्ट भएर करिकुला त तयार गरियो बट इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन गर्ने बेला फेरि त्यो सपोर्ट खोजिएन एउटा अनि अर्को कुरा 5 वर्षमा एकचोटि करिकुलम बनाइन्छ 6 वर्षमा एकचोटि बनाइन्छ अनि त्यति बेला पठाउने र यो कति फ्रिक्वेन्टली रिभ्यू गर्ने कम्पिटेन्सीलाई कति फ्रिक्वेन्टली रिभ्यू गर्ने भन्ने खालको सिस्टम नै इस्टाब्लिस नभइसके पछाडि वाइ वुड दे सेन्ड पिपल सो द्याट इज अनदर रिजन एक्चुअली सो दिज आर द प्र्याक्टिकल रिजन्स दे आर नट रियली सेन्डिङ the right persons for the right purpose.
I think I'd love to add here. You curriculum change गर्ने भन्ने जुन चीज छ I think we have to see the cost. Right? To change गर्ने system र the process is so costly that you cannot do in every 6 months or a year for that matter, isn't it? I don't think it's practical also. Plus अर्को तपाईलाई सोधेको क्वेसनमा हामी किन पठाइरहेको छैनौँ इम्प्लोयर्सले किन पठाउँदैन त त्यो करिकुलम चेन्ज गर्नलाई एक्सपर्ट्सहरू भन्दाखेरि त्यो आस्क नै छैन. फर्स्ट द सिस्टम सुड बी क्रिएटेड वेयर बाई वी हेभ टु बी इन्भाइटेड. त्यो इन्भाइट गर्ने कसले त मेबी बाई द युनिभर्सिटी होला मेबी फ्रम द गभर्मेन्ट होला. आई डोन्ट वान्ट टु ब्लेम एनी वान बट त्यो सिस्टम छैन. बट ह्याभिङ सेड द्याट गुड थिङ्स आर बिङ डन. द लट अफ गुड थिङ्स. अघि मैले हेरेँ युनिलिभर जस्तै एमएडब्ल्यू आइसी अ लट अफ होइन डक्टर साहबले अघि देखाएको चिजमा हामीले पनि गरिरहेछौँ. इन्डस्ट्रीले आफै गरिरहेछ त्यो चिजहरू. जस्तै फर इक्जाम्पल मैले अब मेरो कम्पनीजलाई मेरो होटेल्सहरूलाई कम्पिटिटिभ बनाउनलाई I cannot wait for the university to send me better people, right? So what I've done, I've created an atmosphere, environment, ecosystem. So we have invested in one of the hotel management colleges in Nepal, right? Gate College. So I'm the chairman of the Gate College, right? So it's a very renowned college, hotel management college in Nepal. So we have invested. Soltile invest garyo. र त्यस पछाडि हामीले चाहिँ internally we've changed the curriculum by ourselves. So what we're doing, we are giving them the academics in the college, and we are giving the practical training in our hotels. So by the time they finish their courses, then they're ready for the job. That's how we create people out there. So this is just an example I'm giving. Yo harik organization le thulo organization le आफ्नो लेभलमा त्यो गरेको छ for the competitive edge. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि now what we have to do, I think यसलाई चाहिँ अब bits and pieces मा भन्दा पनि यसलाई चाहिँ as a system, as a model create गरेर त्यसलाई example को रूपमा लिएर if we can implement across the industries, त्यसले impact लिएर आउँछ र त्यो हुन्छ पनि by as the time passes. I think अब कति time लाग्छ नि थाहा छैन, but that's the positive change that's happening in the industries.
Thank you. I think this is I think personally for me it's a very good discussion where sometimes you do not know the gaps, but here in this discussion what we are finding is gaps have been identified. It is there. The practicality of the question is there, and then we are also looking at how curricula cannot be changed very fast. For is that so? Or at the same time, we have an industry, Solti Hotel Limited, buying into Gate College and then designing the curricula to meet their expectations. So these things are happening. Sometimes what happens in Nepal is हामीले कुरा गर्दाखेरि खाली नेगेटिभ बढी कुरा गर्छौँ, तर यस्ता पोजिटिभ सकारात्मक कुराहरू पनि भइरहेछ जुन चाहिँ हामीले प्रचार गर्नुपर्छ होला के हाम्रो आफ्नो रिलेभेन्ट भएन भने पनि यहाँ त यस्तो भइरहेछ नि, this something good is happening in this part of the world in Nepal, and let's put this in the forefront. हैन र? I think we'll come back to that. I have a few more questions on the head, but let's go with the program so that we are within time as well. And though we said we have a lot of time, I think that even that time may not be enough. So consistent message ke aaya ta bhandakari there's a gap in relevance, हैन? Relevance curricula ko छ कि छैन. Gap in readiness also. हैन कतिजनाले आफै सिकेर आयो भने त अझ पनि राम्रो हुन सक्छ, हैन? पर्खेर मात्रै नभइकन अहिलेको जति पनि नवयुवाहरू छ आफ्नो स्पेशली आईटी फिल्डमा कलेजले पढाएको त मलाई कामै छैन भन्छ, हैन? अस्ति पनि सानो एउटा रिसेप्सनमा गएको थिएँ, त्यहाँ एकजना भाइले ग्रेजुएट टप गरेको रहेछ, अनि व्हाट आर यु डुइङ, मास्टर्स गर्ने हैन भन्दा हैन म त काम गर्छु, म फल्ला ठाउँमा काम गर्दैछु, आई एम लर्निङ मोर इन द्याट कम्पनी देन आई हेभ बिन स्टडिङ, हैन? बिकज द प्र्याक्टिकलिटी कुराहरू नि यस्तो कुरा थाहा हुँदा पनि फेरि अब भोलि पोलिसिकल लेभलमा कुरा आउँछ होला, हैन? एट द सेम टाइम नेपालीहरूमा एउटा ग्याप इन कन्फिडेन्स पनि छ जस्तो लाग्छ, हैन? एडाप्टेबिलिटी त चाहियो नै चाहियो, हैन? अवेरनेस. सो लेट्स गो वान लेभल डिपर, हैन? हाम्रो डिस्कसनमा अब वाट स्किल्स एक्चुअली म्याटर, हैन? जस्तै अघि डाक्टर बरालको प्रेजेन्टेसनमा पनि मैले देखेँ कि जुन चाहिँ रिसर्च भएको ठाउँमा communication is very important, हैन? Negotiation skills is very important भन्ने भनेको छ. हामीले त अब हार्ड स्किल्स मात्रै गर्छौँ होला. यो टेक्निकल स्किल्स त it keeps on changing, हैन? And then the real question is, what are the enduring capabilities people must build to stay relevant? त्यसो relevancy चाहियो भने त आफैलाई पनि हामी सिक्नु पर्यो होला नि, हैन? कम्पनीले दिएको काम मात्रै भएर भएन होला या अरू पनि भएन होला. What is it भन्दाखेरि सुरुमा सुदर्शनजीकोमा गएँ. From an industry perspective, what capabilities truly differentiate employees who succeed in technology-enabled workplace from those who struggle? Should I repeat the question?
So I got it. So now employers or employees, technology-लाई चाहिँ what we have to, how we have to define it as an enabler or catalyst. The problem के छ भन्दाखेरि टेक्नोलोजी आयो र अर्को जब चाहिँ रिप्लेस हुन्छ भन्ने कुराहरू पनि सोच पनि छ. टेक्नोलोजी त अब it's irreplaceable. अब यो हामी चाहिँ we must implement technologies within our organizations. यहाँबाट हामी टाढा जानै सक्दैनौँ. जसले चाहिँ टेक्नोलोजी इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्दैन त्यो चाहिँ अनसक्सेसफुल हुने पक्का छ. That's certain. So कुन टेक्नोलोजी युज गर्ने हो, कम्पनीजमा आफ्नो कम्पनीजमा इम्प्लिमेन्ट कुन कुन चाहिँ रेलेभेन्ट छ टेक्नोलोजिजहरू त्यसको लागि चाहिँ वी हेभ टु डु रिसर्च हैन त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रपरली इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्नको लागि वी हेभ टु क्रिएट प्रोसेसेस त्यो इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन गर्नको लागि वी हेभ टु गिभ ट्रेनिङ टु आवर इम्प्लोइज र त्यो मोनिटर त्यसको चाहिँ सक्सेस मोनिटर गर्नको लागि वी हेभ टु क्रिएट अ सिस्टम कतिपय टेक्नोलोजी हुनसक्छ वी थट वी माइट थिङ्क firstly that this technology is going to be successful in my organization, but as the time passes that might be costlier, that might not give you the result which you might have expected. त्यसलाई चाहिँ सुरुमै त्यो थाहा हुने बित्तिकै we should replace it because technology भनेको it's a cost. आजको डेटमा एउटा प्लेटफर्म तपाईले चाहिँ आफ्नो अर्गनाइजेसनमा इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्नु पर्यो भने चाहिँ डलर्स यु हेभ टु पे डलर्स huge amount of money invest गर्नुपर्छ for example in a hotel industry like ours booking platform एउटा चाहिँ नयाँ बुकिङ प्लेटफर्म आयो अथवा नयाँ एउटा चाहिँ चेक इन टुल डेभलप भयो त्यो डेफिनेटली त्यो नेपालमा डेभलप हुँदैन भइरहेछ बिस्तारै but internationally for our industry we have to have some international platform because people from all over the world they have to have the access to book the system right त्यो इन्टरनेसनली हुनुपर्छ एन्ड वी हेभ टु पे डलर्स गुड अमाउन्ट अफ डलर इन्भेस्टमेन्ट्स हुन्छ र हामीले त्यो प्रपरली इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्न सकेनौँ भने त्यो कस्टलियर हुन्छ र त्यसको आरओआई रिटर्न अन इन्भेस्टमेन्ट हुँदैन सो त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अर्को फेलियर त्यहाँ हुन्छ र वी क्यान नट अभोइड ओहो यो चाहिँ म इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्दैन भनेर बस्न पनि सकिन्न वी मस्ट इम्प्लिमेन्ट इट बिकज एभ्रिबडी आर डुइङ इट एन्ड यु हेभ टु बी अहेड इन द रेस अर्को के छ भन्दाखेरि टेक्नोलोजीको कस्ट र ह्युमन रिसोर्सको कस्ट त्यो पनि एनालिसिस गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र कतिपय अवस्थामा टेक्नोलोजीको कस्ट इज हेभियर देन ह्युमन रिसोर्सको कस्ट द्याट वी हेभ टु आइडेन्टिफाई र त्यो चिजहरूलाई एनालिसिस गरेर टेक्नोलोजी जसले चाहिँ इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्छ आई थिङ्क दोज कम्पनीज विल बी सक्सेसफुल अरू म टेक्नोलोजी इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्दिनँ आइल डु अन माई ओन भन्ने त अफकोर्स डाउन द लाइन दिल ह्याभ पेन इन द बिजनेस
थ्याङ्क यू सुदर्शनजी 2 महिना अगाडि म पोखरा गएको थिएँ पोखराको एउटा कम्पनी त्यहाँ यसो हेरिदिनु थियो अनि टेक्नोलोजी कम्पनीले अनि त्यहाँ भन्दै थियो सर हामीले गत महिनामा 10 जना मेरो डिजाइनरहरूलाई फायर गर्नु पर्यो किनभने अहिले 10 जनाले जुन चाहिँ काम गर्ने अहिले आर्टिफिसियल इन्टेलिजेन्सले मजाले डिजाइन गरिदिन्छ भन्ने पनि कुरा आयो होइन अनि अब यो 2 हप्ता अगाडि काठमाडौँमा नै यो नेपाल मार्केटिङ एसोसिएसनले 2 दिनको एआई एन्ड मार्केटिङ ब्रान्डिङ भन्ने कार्यक्रम गरेको थियो त्यहाँनिर 2 जना रिसोर्स पर्सन थियो एकजना कनेडियन थियो एउटा बङ्गलादेशी थियो बङ्गलादेशी चाहिँ एडभर्टाइजिङ एजेन्सीको ब्याकग्राउन्डमा थियो उसलाई चाहिँ लास्ट इयर त्यत्रो वर्ष क्रिएटिभ डिजाइनर भएर बसेकोमा उसलाई चाहिँ म इररेलेभेन्ट हुन्छु भनेर एआई सिक्न लगाएपछि उसले देखाएको जुन चाहिँ विज्ञापन थियो बङ्गलादेशमा बसेर नेपालको बारेमा केही थाहा नभइकन डज नो नथिङ अबाउट नेपाल होइन हि क्रिएटेड एन एडभर्टिजमेन्ट फर अ कम्पनी विथ अ सङ लिरिक्स रिटन इन टोन प्योर नेपाली देयर वाज नो हियर एन्ड देयर द फेसियल स्ट्रक्चर वाज एब्सोल्युटली नेपाली नो लाइक वी कुडन्ट टेल द्याट दिस वाज आर्टिफिसियली जेनेरेटेड इट वाज सो गुड होइन सो त्यो भनेपछि त मान्छे त अब हट्ने भयो सो मैले यो किन भनेको भन्दा तपाईँले अघि जुन चाहिँ भन्नुभयो टेक्नोलोजी इनेबल त गर्नै पर्यो होइन सो त्यसको मतलब के त्यो टेक्नोलोजी इनेबल गरेर त्यो इम्प्लोएबिलिटी या इम्प्लोयरले चाहिँ स्टाफहरूले चाहिँ सिकेनन् उहाँहरूलाई फायरै गर्ने हो अर्को उपाय के छ
तपाईँको क्वेसनमा यही थियो आई लाइक टु अब यसमा चाहिँ एउटा सानो अघि एड गर्छु तपाईँले भनेको इक्जाम्पलमा कि 10 जना डिजाइनर थियो अब त्यो सबै काम चाहिँ एआईले गर्यो त्यसले गर्दा त्यसको कम भयो त्यो इम्प्लोइज होइन त तर त्यो रिडन्डेन्ट अथवा रिप्लेस भएको होइन न वाट वी निड टु एनालाइज यहाँबाट भन्दाखेरि अर्को बङ्गलादेशको मान्छेले चाहिँ नेपालको तपाईँको विज्ञापन गरिदियो भनेको मतलब के हो भन्दाखेरि मान्छे त चाहिँदो रहेछ नि त जो मान्छे चाहिँ क्रिएटिभ काम गरिरहेछ नेपालमा उसले काम गर्न सकेन तर अर्को बङ्गलादेश बस्ने मान्छेले नेपालमा काम गर्यो भनेपछि मान्छे त चाहिने रहेछ नि त इम्प्लोइज त चाहिने रहेछ नि त तर त्यसको स्किल सेट इज डिफरेन्ट नाउ वाट वी निड टु अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड
त्यसैमा चाहिँ कहाँ भन्नु खोजेको भने त्यो इम्प्लोइले उसले सिकेन भने त ऊ रिडन्डेन्ट हुने भयो नि त होइन कम्पनीले सिकाउने हो कि आफै सिक्ने हो
त्यो क्वेसन चाहिँ भेग भयो कसले सिकाउने भन्ने कुरा तर यो क्वेसन के हो भन्दाखेरि अब हाम्रो वे अफ वर्किङ ह्याज चेन्ज्ड होइन त एआईलाई कमान्ड त दिनु पर्यो नि त बङ्गलादेशमा बस्ने मान्छेले नेपालको लागि एडभर्टिजमेन्ट बनाउँदाखेरि कस्तो किसिमको कमान्ड दिन त एआईलाई नेपालको यो कम्पनीको एड बनाऊ उसको रेलेभेन्स यो छ यो फेसियल नेपालकै फेस राख बनाउँदाखेरि त्यसलाई इन्स्ट्रक्सन त्यो त मसिन हो नि त एआई भनेको त मसिन हो नि उसलाई इन्स्ट्रक्सन त दिनु पर्यो नि त त्यो इन्स्ट्रक्सन दिने स्किल द्याट्स अ स्किल डेभलपमेन्ट त्यो चाहिँ बङ्गलादेशको मान्छेले चाहिँ त्यो इन्स्ट्रक्सन दिन सक्ने नेपालमै बसेको यहीँको चाहिँ तपाईँको चाहिँ थाहा भएको मान्छेले चाहिँ इन्स्ट्रक्सन दिन नसक्ने भनेपछि त्यो स्किल चाहिँ हामीले डेभलप गर्नु पर्यो द्याट्स अ स्किल ग्याप होइन अब त्यो स्किल चाहिँ कसले सिकाउने इम्प्लोयरले सिकाउने कि इम्प्लोइजले सिक्ने कि अथवा युनिभर्सिटीले सिक्ने कि भन्दाखेरि अब यो चाहिँ सबैले सिक्ने हो सबैले गर्ने हो आफ्नो ठाउँबाट पहिला त इम्प्लोइजमा पनि तपाईँको के हुनु पऱ्यो भन्दाखेरि यो सिक्ने माइन्डसेट हुनु पऱ्यो
करेक्ट
त्यो सिक्ने माइन्डसेट
द्याट्स वाइ द फर्स्ट क्वेसन नै माइन्डसेट हैन सिक्ने
माइन्डसेट हुनु पऱ्यो र त्यो सिक्ने माइन्डसेट फेरि तपाईँको डिप्रेसिङ इन्भाइरोमेन्ट क्रिएट गर्यो इम्प्लोयरले अथवा तिमीले चाहिँ जान्दै जानेनौ तिमी चाहिँ यु जस्ट गो भन्ने इन्भाइरोमेन्टबाट तपाईँको चाहिँ यो मोटिभेटेड भयो भने त्यो इन्भाइरोमेन्ट क्रिएट भएन अलि लर्निङ इन्भाइरोमेन्ट क्रिएट गराउनु पऱ्यो इम्प्लोयरले होइन ब्यालेन्स गर्नु पऱ्यो सर्टेन चिज चाहिँ तिमी आफै सिक तिम्रो आफ्नो पर्सनल डेभलपमेन्टको लागि इम्प्लोयरको यो कामको लागि चाहिँ विल गिभ यु द अनलाइन प्लेटफर्म अथवा आज त तपाईँ जानुभयो भने त अनलाइनमा यतिवटा कोर्सेसहरू छ कि यु क्यान लर्न बाई युर सेल्फ यो चिज चाहिँ हामी गराउँछौँ तिमीलाई अर्को एकाडेमिक्सको चिजमा चाहिँ यु हेभ टु डु दिस कोर्सेस एज वेल भन्ने चिज तपाईँको चाहिँ आजको डेटमा इनफ्याक्ट मेरो स्किल ग्याप के छ भन्ने चिज चाहिँ तपाईँले चाहिँ एउटा फर्म हुन्छ त्यो च्याट जिपिटीमै इनफ्याक्ट तपाईँले गर्नुभयो भने लट अफ प्लेटफर्म्स आएर त्यसले तपाईँको साइकोलोजिकल टेस्ट गरिदिन्छ आज यु डोन्ट निड पहिलाको जस्तो चाहिँ एचआरको एक्सपर्ट्स लिएर आएर यसरी हामी चाहिँ तपाईँको मिट गरेर अथवा तपाईँको चाहिँ ब्रेन स्ट्रोमिङ गर्नु पर्दैन जो इन्ट्रोभर्ट छ जो चाहिँ तपाईँको आफै गर्न चाहन्छ त्यो 4-5वटा तपाईँले क्वेसन हाल्ने बित्तिकै तपाईँको त्यो माइन्डसेट रिड गर्ने एआई नै भइसक्यो आजकल फ्रम देयर यु क्यान ह्याभ यर स्किलको ग्याप्सहरू के छ भन्ने कुरा एनालिसिस हुन्छ इम्प्लोयरले पनि त्यो गर्न सक्छ इम्प्लोइले पनि गर्न सक्छ र तपाईँको युनिभर्सिटिजले पनि गर्न सक्छ अब यो चाहिँ इट्स अ मिक्स सबैले आफ्नो ठाउँबाट यो चिज गर्नु पऱ्यो र म चाहिँ आम भेरी अप्टिमिस्टिक केमा भन्दाखेरि डाउन द लाइन कपाल अफ इयर्स डाउन द लाइन इट विल बी देयर कोर्सेसमा पनि आउँछ कति चाँडो चाहिँ हामी अड्याप्ट गर्ने भन्ने सिस्टम पनि आउँछ बिकज विदाउट द्याट हामी चाहिँ वी अल आर गोन बी रिडन्डेन्ट एज एन इम्प्लोयर वी हेभ टु अल्सो कम्पिट विथ द अर्गनाइजेसन्स होइन त
करेक्ट
नभए त हाम्रो ब्यालेन्स सिट राम्रो देखिँदैन ब्यालेन्स सिट नराम्रो देखिने बित्तिकै यु आर रिडन्डेन्ट फ्रम द बिजनेस दे विल बी समवन एल्स विल पप अप इन द मार्केट राइट सो अल अफ अस यसले गर्ने भन्ने नै छ अल अफ अस सुड बी देयर
थ्याङ्क यू सुदर्शनजी सो उहाँ कर्पोरेटबाट आउनु भएकोले अलिकति के अझै निक्लिन्छ कि भन्ने हो होइन अलिकति उहाँलाई स्पटमा राखौँ कि भनेर तर उहाँले भन्नुभएको नि हामी पनि हेरौँ न होइन हामी रेलेभेन्ट भएन भने त होइन वाइ सुड एनीबडी गिभ अस वर्क अल्सो होइन इफ इट इज अप टु द इन्डिभिजुअल टु स्टे रेलेभेन्ट त्यो पनि त छ नि त त्यसलाई सपोर्ट कसरी गर्ने भन्ने चाहिँ हुन्छ होला होइन त्यसो भन्दाखेरि त डक्टर उषा क्वालिफिकेसन गोज आउट अफ द विन्डो होइन किन रेलेभेन्सको लागि त यु निड प्र्याक्टिक्यालिटी यु निड पर्फर्मेन्स होइन बिहेभियर चेन्ज गर्नु पऱ्यो होइन मलाई म ललितपुर महानगरपालिकाको यो उद्यमशीलताको महिला उद्यमशीलतामा म अलिअलि काम गर्छु त्यहाँनिर पहिला एउटा अभिमुखीकरण ओरिएन्टेसन प्रोग्राम हुँदाखेरि धेरैजना उद्यमीहरू आउनुभएको थियो अनि उहाँ किन सेलेक्ट हुनुभयो त त्यो ओरिएन्टेसनको लागि भन्दा उहाँले 22वटा ट्रेनिङ लिएको थियो 22वटा सर्टिफिकेट थियो भन्ने थियो कि सो वाट इज द गुड युज अफ अ सर्टिफिकेट अन टेकिङ अ ट्रेनिङ इफ इट डज नट हेल्प यु टु इम्प्रुभ यर बिजनेस होइन र सो फ्रम द्याट पर्सपेक्टिभ नि डक्टर उषा फ्रम अ स्किल सिस्टम पर्सपेक्टिभ वाट कम्पिटेन्सिज सुड ट्रेनिङ प्रोग्राम्स prioritize to ensure people are not just trained but actually become employable and adaptable?
Look, अहिलेसम्म चाहिँ के भयो भनेदेखि the whole Tibet ecosystem that also includes employment system, okay, when we talk about Tibet ecosystem. यो चाहिँ certificate driven भयो क्या. Most of the time certificates are provided. but competencies-लाई चाहिँ भ्यालु दिएन. Now, time has come to move out from, already has come होइन कि यो त already ढिला भइसक्यो. Certification based system बाट competence based system मा whole ecosystem should be changed. यसो भन्दै गर्दा अघि सुदर्शनजीले भन्नुभयो नि स्किल सेट्सहरू चेन्ज भएको हुन्छ भनेपछि कस्तो खालको स्किल सेट्सहरू चाहिने हो. म फेरि रिपिट गर्छु, इम्प्लोयर्सको पर्सपेक्टिभबाट इम्प्लोयर्सले भनेको अनुसार इम्प्लोयर्सलाई चाहिने अनुसारको स्किल सेट्सहरू चाहिँ तयार गर्ने बेला आयो. एउटा त्यो भयो. अर्को कुरा चाहिँ when we talk about skills, we most of the time we think that skills are those minimal sets or very low level of skills, menial skills, manual skills, for a week, for a 10 days or for a month भन्ने मात्र हामी सोच्छौँ. त्यो स्किल्स ट्रेनिङ भनेको चाहिँ त्यो मात्र होइन. इट इज अ होल TVET. द्याट इज वाइ टेक्निकल एन्ड भोकेसनल एजुकेसन एन्ड ट्रेनिङ इट इज एन एकाडेमिक एक्चुअली, बिकज देयर इज अ डिफरेन्सेस बिट्विन स्किल्स ट्रेनिङ, स्किल्स डेभलपमेन्ट एन्ड TVET. हामीले चाहिँ अब कुरा गर्ने भनेको चाहिँ टोटल TVET सिस्टमको कुरा गर्ने हो कि, अथवा टिबेट सिस्टमले हाउ क्यान टिबेट सिस्टम बी बेनिफिसियल टु द इम्प्लोयमेन्ट मार्केट भनेर सोच्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. त्यो हुने बित्तिकै we can help youth to move out from certificate-based system to competence-based. How? मैले अघि नै पनि भने employers they know that what types of skill sets, what types of competencies they require. त्यही अनुसारको competenciesहरू, and I fully agree with you and which Solti group has already started that I am fully aware of. यो चाहिँ अब CTVTले तयार गर्ने अथवा कुनै युनिभर्सिटीले तयार गर्ने करिकुला होइन. करिकुला must be developed. Of course, national standards should be given by the country, होइन, countryको अथोरिटीले दिने हो. तर it should be developed by those employers अथवा those labor मार्केटको एक्टर्सहरूले डेभलप गर्नुपर्छ क्या. त्यो हुने बित्तिकै यो अघि नै भनेको जस्तो त्यो छोटो छोटो अवधिको तालिम लिँदै टन्न राख्ने अनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ ट्रान्सफर नगर्ने खालको बानी गर्ने खालको चलन हट्छ एउटा. दोस्रो कुरो चाहिँ द डिफ्रेन्ट टाइम्समा डिफ्रेन्ट टाइप्स अफ ट्रेनिङ्सहरू लिएको हुन्छ एन्ड दोज ट्रेनिङ्स आर नट भ्यालुड, नट रिकग्नाइज्ड, नट कम्पाइल्ड टुगेदर एक्चुली. किनभने कम्पिटेन्सिज मैले अघि नै भनिहालेँ, नट नेसेसरी दोज आर बेस्ड अन कम्पिटेन्सी फर्स्ट. अनि हु विल एसेस द्याट कम्पिटेन्सी, हु विल रिकग्नाइज द्याट कम्पिटेन्सी, यो पनि एकदमै भेग छ. अफकोर्स दिस कन्ट्री हेज रिकग्निसन अफ प्रायर लर्निङ प्र्याक्टिस, बट हु रिकग्नाइज इट? इट इज नट इम्प्लोयर्स, it is the CTVT system recognize it. I'm not saying that they should not be doing it, but again I repeat, they can provide standards, they can provide procedures, but recognition must be done by employers because they know that whether the skill sets are compatible with the occupations in demand or occupations junko लागि हो त्यसमा भनेर. भनेपछि if these types of recognition of prior learning is in practice led by employers, then lifelong learning लाई पनि यसले मद्दत गर्छ. So in that case, अघि नै यहाँले लिनुभएको एक्जाम्पलको 22वटा सर्टिफिकेट लिने खालको कुराहरू पनि हराउँछ. अर्को अघि नै पनि आएको कुरा, एकदम महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा भनेको चाहिँ occupational skills you can learn from the training, but employability skills not necessarily within that 3 months or 1 month training you can learn.
Okay.
So, employability skills learn गर्नको लागि त you need to be in a real world of work. You need to be in that hotel, you need to be in that IT company. त्यहाँबाट मात्र थाहा हुन्छ कि कस्टमरसँगको रियाक्सन के अरे इन्टरेक्सन्स कस्तो हुनु पर्दो रहेछ, टिम बिल्डिङ कस्तो हुँदो पर्दो रहेछ, छिट्टो छरितो टाइम बाउन्ड भएर काम गर्ने कस्तो हुँदो रहेछ, काम बिगाऱ्यो भने अथवा टोट्यो फोट्यो भने रेस्पोन्स कसरी गर्ने रहेछ. All those things are learned being in the real world of work. One. Second is that what is employability skills? Employability skills is also, that also includes the ability to face interview. Simple मैले उदाहरण दिएको. CVs तयार गर्ने, interview face गर्नेदेखि लिएर to get the job, to remain in the job, to upgrade inside the job, right? के अरे within the job. त्यो सबै खालको कुरा गर्न सक्ने क्षमता चाहिँ occupational skillsमा सिकाइँदैन. So because of that, people not only 22 certificates, Sumanji, 42वटा तालिम लिने मान्छे पनि मैले भेटेको छु. So it happens.
यसमा अलिकति म
Okay. छोटो
इम्प्लोयबिलिटी स्किल्स चाहिँ यो तपाईँको चाहिँ जो भर्खरै युनिभर्सिटीबाट पास आउट गरेको मान्छेलाई मात्र लागु हुँदैन. आई थिङ्क जो अर्गनाइजेसनमा 5-10 इयर्स काम गरिसकेर बसिरहेछ उसको लागि पनि there is a question now whether they are employable or not. I'll give you a small example. 10 years back, हाम्रो गेस्ट आउँदाखेरि होटेल्समा चेक इन गर्ने प्रोसेस वाज डिफरेन्ट. तपाईँ एउटा पेपर दिनुहुन्थ्यो, त्यहाँ चाहिँ सबै चिज फिलअप हुन्थ्यो, साइन हुन्थ्यो, र अनि फ्रन्ट अफिसको जो टिम छ त्यो टिमले चाहिँ त्यो राख्थ्यो पेपर, हद्दो भयो के गर्थ्यो भन्दा त्यो स्क्यान गरेर सिस्टममा राख्थ्यो हैन. नाउ what has happened is there is a change in the system. Now it's all online. अब त्यो person who was working as a front office manager in the reception for last 10 years, there is a question to him or her whether she is employable or not, because the system has changed. You know, so it's not applicable only to the new joinees. It's also applicable to those who have been working in the industry since ages. So two cheats are now. Within our system, your skill, your employability ko lagi चाहिँ employer are responsible. Hamro system ke cha bhandari, I think lot of HR professionals, learning and development professionals are there. We have to accept this fact. मेरो organization ma त्यही हुन्छ. Learning and development भनेपछि तपाईको चाहिँ वर्षमा यति hours training गर्ने भन्ने हुन्छ employees ले, because it is directly linked to their performance evaluation. So if you do not do training 100 hours in a year, त्यसपछि त्यो एउटा parameter चाहिँ performance evaluation मा it's not there. त्यो टिक हुँदैन. त्यो compliance को लागि मात्रै चाहिँ तपाईको ट्रेनिङ भइराछ. त्यसको effectiveness र त्यसको measurement त्यो भइरहेको छैन. I think
तपाईहरुकोमा त भइराछ.
हाम्रो भइराछ थिएन.
Okay.
It was there. So we changed it over a period of time. So what I think is a learning and development professional, to learning and development professional le bichara learning and L&D department cha, ulai sabai त्यो responsibility दिएको छ कि. That department is responsible to make everyone, all the employees skillful. अब त्यो जो कुक छ अघि म्यामले भने जस्तो किचनमा जो काम गर्छ त्यो L&D डिपार्टमेन्टले किचनको के पनि थाहा छैन. उसलाई थाहा पनि त्यो मेन्युको आइटम्स पनि थाहा छैन. हाउ कैन वी एक्सपेक्ट कि लर्निङ एन्ड डेभलपमेन्टको टिमले गएर त्यो किचनको टेक्निकल ट्रेनिङ दिन्छ भन्ने, क्यान वी एक्सपेक्ट दिस? वी कैन नट. Even
this should be facilitator only, not the trainer.
Exactly. This is what is happening in the industry. Okay. So हाम्रोमा पनि त्यही थियो अब few years back, हैन? So now what we have changed, we have created a pool of experts within the training department. They are just a facilitator, and all the trainings are given by the experts within the system, outside the system. And we ensure those experts, the experts को पनि assessment हुनु पर्यो फेरि. त्यो experts चाहिँ are they really experts for giving the training or not? That's a big problem. The resources who are supposed to be resources for upgrading the skills of our employees, त्यो resource ma problem भयो भने, then there's a big problem that we have to do an assessment.
Okay, I think while Sudarshanji and Ushaji is responding to these questions and adding their thoughts in, you must be also thinking on your own lines. Please make notes of what they're saying and questions to ask as we open up the Q&A a bit later. तपाईहरुकोमा पनि अर्गनाइजेसनमा खाली यति आवर्स सकाउनको लागि मात्रै भइराछ कि हैन, कति बेला हामीलाई पनि बोलाउँछ ट्रेनिङ गर्नको लागि हैन, कतिजना मान्छे इन्ट्रेस्टेडै छैन किनभने उहाँको एउटा टिक मार्क मात्रै गर्नुपर्ने हो कि भन्ने पनि सोचाइमा सायद तपाईहरुको पनि केही प्रश्नहरु आउँछ होला. अहिलेकै प्रश्नमा जोड्दाखेरि डाक्टर उषा, you have been part of Swiss Contact or even from the donor agency also. Your donor agency हरुले यत्रो नेपाललाई सहयोग गरि पनि रहेछ हैन. I've been part of certain projects also. यो employability मा चाहिँ किन फोकस नगरेको त? यदि if this is so important हैन, स्किलमा चाहिँ गर्यो. तपाईले भन्नु वास्ते 22 वटा सर्टिफिकेट 42 वटा सर्टिफिकेट आयो. If employability is so important, हजुरहरु आबद्ध भएको संस्थाहरुले चाहिँ यो किन न?
कस्तो राम्रो क्वेसन छ, अनि भेरी च्यालेन्जिङ क्वेसन पनि. नगरेको होइन, बिकज जहिले पनि प्रोग्रामहरूमा ट्रेनिङहरूकोमा, जस्तो उदाहरणको लागि यहाँ मैले अघि भर्खरै इन्स्योरको निर्मलाजीको पनि क्वेसन सुनिरहेको थिएँ. डुएल भेट अप्रेन्टिससिप अनि अथवा अन द जब ट्रेनिङहरू हुन्छ. every training has a 3 major component: knowledge part, skills part, and attitude part. Attitude part definitely includes employability part. तर अब यसलाई अहिलेसम्मको धेरैमा चाहिँ कम्पिटेन्सी डेभलप गर्नेमा बढी जोड दिएको देखिन्छ र इम्प्लोयबिलिटीमा चाहिँ अलिक कम जोड भएको चाहिँ देखिन्छ। तर नभएको चाहिँ होइन, बिकज all 3 लर्निङ डोमेन्स आर टट, all 3 लर्निङ डोमेन्स चाहिँ यो सिकाइन्छ, त्यो नसिकाउने होइन। तर त्यसो भन्दा भन्दै टाइम हेज बिन चेन्ज के अघि उहाँले भन्नुभएको जस्तो नि इम्प्लोयबिलिटी स्किल्स पनि त्यसलाई समयअनुसार चाहिँ चेन्जेस हुँदै आउँछ। जस्तो अब अहिले यो डिजिटल एजमा कतिपय कुराहरू चेन्जेस भएको छ। नाउ लेट मी डिस्क्लोज वी आर थिङ्किङ अफ ब्रिङ्गिङ न्यू इनिसिएटिभ अल्सो, practice enterprise भन्दा रहेछ नि। you some of you may want to google it, this is very interesting also, we will come back to employers also पछि। practice enterprises भन्दो रहेछ, त्यो चाहिँ practice enterprises यो चाहिँ सिमुलेटेड प्लेटफर्म हो। किनभने कतिपय अवस्थामा स्पेसिफिकली इन इन्स्टिट्युसन बेस्ड ट्रेनिङ, डुएल वेट अप्रेन्टिससिपमा त मैले अघि नै भनिहालेँ, वर्क बेस्ड लर्निङ जहाँ हुन्छ त्यही नै मेनी स्किल्स आर कग्निटिभ स्किल्स, क्रिटिकल थिङ्किङ स्किल्स, अल दोज स्किल्स आर लर्न्ड, राइट। तर इन्स्टिट्युसन बेस्ड ट्रेनिङमा चाहिँ मोस्टली हुँदैन। अब जस्तो इन्टर्नसिप गर्न पठाइदिन्छ अनि अनफर्चुनेटली कोही साथीहरू ब्याङ्कर्स हुनुहुन्छ भने प्लिज फर गिभ मी, अनि खालि त्यो स्टेपल लाउने सिकेर बस्छ स्टुडेन्ट्सहरूले होइन, ग्रेजुएट्सहरूले। सो त्यस्तो नहोस् भनेर प्र्याक्टिस इन्टरप्राइज जस्तो प्लेटफर्महरू विच इज अ भर्चुअल प्लेटफर्म, सिमुलेसन बेस्ड लर्निङहरू हुन्छ, त्यो चाहिँ इन्स्टिट्युसन्सहरूमा युनिभर्सिटी, कलेज, सेकेन्डरी स्कुल्स, टिबेट इन्स्टिट्युसन्सहरूमा चाहिँ इस्टाब्लिस गर्नुपर्छ भन्नेमा हामी एडभोकेसी गरिरहेछौँ। मेबी दिस विल कम सुन एक्चुअली। सो दिस इज मैले भन्न खोजेको चाहिँ इट्स वान अफ द इम्प्लोयबिलिटी स्किल्सको एउटा स्टाइल हो यो। Now time has been changed, it should be innovative, it should be, compatible with the thinking of people also, thinking of youth also. र यो डिजिटल उसको टाइममा त डिजिटल एजमा त यो झन् इम्पोर्टेन्ट हुन्छ। त्यस कारण it has, the system has done it in the past, now time has been changed to be more innovative and innovative ideas are coming in.
Thank you. Good to know new practices that are being practiced outside and also being brought into Nepal. I hope that the employability index also goes up, skills also goes up, and more people who are being trained in Nepal also gets a job. And खाली employability भन्दा मेरो आफ्नै उदाहरणमा पनि मैले पनि धेरै वर्ष उद्यमशीलतामा काम गरेँ हैन। तर एउटा प्रोजेक्टमा एप्लिकेसन देऊ न, एउटा कन्सल्टिङको काम आइरहेछ भनेर भन्दाखेरि अनि ठिक छ नि त भन्नु, तपाईँकोमा त उद्यमशीलताको सर्टिफिकेट छैन रहेछ नि त भनेर चाहिँ सोधेँ कि होइन। हामीले त अब काम गर्ने होइन, आई डोन्ट हेभ अ सर्टिफिकेट अन अन्टरप्रेन्योरसिप, आई नेभर थट अबाउट इट होइन। अनि के गर्ने त भन्दाखेरि होइन, अब डिस्कसन भयो, काम भयो, आफ्नो ठाउँमा छ। बट देन आई फेल्ट द्याट मेबी आई सुड टेक अ सर्टिफिकेसन। यो त अब अर्कोले पनि सोध्ने भयो होइन। 25 वर्षपछि फेरि मैले आइएलओको सर्टिफिकेसन लिएँ कि होइन, त्यो आफ्नै प्रोसेसमा थियो, कोभिडको टाइममा हेल्प पनि हुन्छ भनेर। खालि यतापट्टि नभएर भोलि त फ्रम एचआर पर्सपेक्टिभमा एप्लिकेसन मात्रै आउँछ, एप्लिकेसन मात्रै आएर त उसले त एप्लिकेसनको भरमा उसले असेस गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ कि वेदर इनसाइड द डोर पर्छ कि पर्दैन, सेकेन्ड लिस्टमा पर्छ कि पर्दैन। त्यति बेला त फेरि यो सर्टिफिकेटहरू त काम लाग्ला नि त होइन र। अब यहाँ के हुनसक्छ होइन, त्यति बेला 22-42 काम लाग्ने हो कि होइन कि होइन। But anyway, I think this is interesting. We are converging into something important. It's not just about technical skills, it is also about adaptability, mindset ko kura garyo, employability ko kura garyo, continuous learning ko kura garyo. So this will now lead to a critical challenge. We'll enter one layer deeper into making transformation work from the human side. Even when organization introduces new tools and systems, people don't always adopt them easily. And I remember a time many years ago when computers were introduced into banks and bank employees went on a strike because हामीले टाइपराइटरले राम्रै काम गरिरहेछ त किन कम्प्युटर चाहियो भने जस्तो नि हैन। सो त्यस्तो पनि हुनसक्छ। सो द रियल क्वेसन इज हाउ डु वी मेक दिस ट्रान्जिसन वर्क फर पिपल। किनभने अघि हामीले प्रेजेन्टेसनमा पनि देख्यौँ होइन कि मान्छेहरू एचआर टिमसँग कुरा गर्नै डराउँछ हैन। सो फर भेरियस रिजन्स हैन, त्यो पनि छ। कसरी काम गर्ने के। सो टु सुदर्शनजी, from a leadership perspective, how can organizations introduce technology in a way that builds confidence rather than fear among employees?
Correct. A very relevant question, Sumanji. You how busy? You AI, you digital change, यो चाहिँ यति ठुलो फियर भएको छ बोथ फर इम्प्लोयर्सको डिफ्रेन्ट पर्सपेक्टिभ छ इम्प्लोइजको डिफ्रेन्ट पर्सपेक्टिभ अब यो तपाईँको क्वेसन चाहिँ कसरी टेक्नोलोजी इन्ट्रोड्युस गर्नै पर्छ तर अब द वे अफ इन्ट्रोड्युसिङ इट मस्ट बी भेरी भेरी फेयर र अर्को कस्तो इन्भाइरोमेन्ट क्रिएट इट्स अ भेरी बिग रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी फर अल द इम्प्लोयर्स इन्डस्ट्रिज टु हेभ द्याट इन्भाइरोमेन्ट created in their organizations within the HR system कि तिम्रो जब जानको लागि होइन कि यो सबभन्दा ठुलो के भइरहेछ भन्दाखेरि ओहो म चाहिँ कम्प्युटर आयो भने म चाहिँ जो चाहिँ टाइपराइटरबाट काम गरिरहेको थियो जो चाहिँ म्यानुअल काम गरिरहेको थियो जाहिर
गयो अब एआई को त्यस्तै छ एआई जानेन भने त गयो
हैन
हैन
अब यो सबभन्दा ठुलो फियर फ्याक्टरै यही हो त्यसले गर्दाखेरि के गर्छ भन्दाखेरि एचआरले पनि त्यो रिलक्टेन्ट भएर चाहिँ इन्ट्रोड्युस गर्दैन राम्रोसँग गर्दैन र हरेक त्यो डिपार्टमेन्टको अर्गनाइजेसनको हरेक युनिटले चाहिँ त्यो राम्रोसँग इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्दैन त्यो गर्नै चाहँदैन उनीहरूले के सोध्छ भन्दाखेरि ओहो यो आयो भने दे विल बी अ फियर फ्याक्टर देयर इज अ फियर द्याट आवर जब विल बी गन रिडन्डेन्ट त्यो एउटा सिनारीमा होला पनि नाउ वाट वी निड टु डु इज हामीले चाहिँ यस्तो इन्भाइरोमेन्ट क्रिएट गर्नु पऱ्यो कि दिस अघि पनि मैले भने टेक्नोलोजी भनेको इनेबलर हो यो चाहिँ क्याटलिस्ट हो यसले बिजनेसलाई पुश गर्ने हो तिम्रो जागिर रिप्लेस गर्ने होइन यसले दिस इज वाट फर्स्ट यो नरेटिभ विदिन द अर्गनाइजेसन चाहिँ यो हुनु पऱ्यो फर्स्टमा र जसको अब टेक्नोलोजी भनेको आजको डेटमा सबै इन्डस्ट्रीमा के भइरहेछ भन्दाखेरि इट्स नट अ डिसिजन मेकिङको चिज होइन यो द्याट इज वाट वी हेभ टु एक्सेप्ट यो चाहिँ एकदमै डेटा एनालिसिस यो रिपिटेटिभ जब्स जुन चाहिँ यो जब्सहरू एकदमै यो टाइम कन्ज्युमिङ जब्सलाई इज बनाउने प्रोसेसेसहरू हो अघि पनि मैले इक्जाम्पल दिएँ चेक इनको होटेल इन्डस्ट्रीमा चेक इनको बेलामा तपाईँको पहिला 5 मिनट्स लाग्थ्यो भने आजकल तपाईँको विदिन 30 सेकेन्ड 1 मिनट हुन्छ चेक त्यो किन भन्दाखेरि सिस्टम इनेबलर सिस्टम ड्रिभन अब नाउ वाट वी निड टु डु इज पर्सन चाहिँ त्यही हो जसले चेक इन गरिरहेछ नाउ वाट वी निड टु गिभ देम जसले चाहिँ 10 वर्षदेखि काम गरिरहेछ उसलाई त्यो टेक्नोलोजी दिने मात्रै होइन हामीले फेरि अब त्यो टेक्नोलोजी युज गर्न अर्को मान्छे खोज्ने होइन हामीले त्यो टिमलाई त्यो इम्प्लोइजलाई ट्रेनिङ दिनु पऱ्यो द्याट्स भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट जब हामी यसरी वी हेभ टु प्रेजेन्ट आवर सेल्फ एज एन इम्प्लोयर्स टु द इम्प्लोइज अर विदिन द अर्गनाइजेसन द्याट दिस इज द क्याटलिस्ट दिस इज द इनेबलर नाउ यु अल विल बी ट्रेन्ड यु अल हेभ टु हेभ द माइन्डसेट अफ लर्निङ म चाहिँ अब 40 वर्ष पुगेँ म 50 वर्ष पुगेँ म चाहिँ 55 वर्ष पुगिसकेँ मेरो एज वाइज अब मेरो त्यो दिमागले पनि कतिपय इम्प्लोइजको त्यो पनि छ कि त्यो म अब कसरी सिक्ने त म मेरो दिमागले नै दिँदैन म यो 20 वर्ष 25 वर्ष चाहिँ यसमै काम गरेर आएँ म इभन इन द ब्याङ्क्स अघि भन्नुभयो नि होइन अब तपाईँको चाहिँ केवाइसी फर्म जुन छ पहिला लिएर गएर टक्क भरेर तपाईँको लिएर आउँथ्यो त्यसको लागि तपाईँको ब्याङ्कमा चाहिँ फुल टिम हुन्थ्यो कि होइन अब न अनलाइन तपाईँले चाहिँ आजकल अनलाइन अब त्यो नाउ त्यो चलाउने मान्छे त चाह्यो नि त त्यो अनलाइनमा तपाईँको त्यो फर्म पठाउने मान्छे चाह्यो अथवा त्यो आइसके पछाडि भेरिफाई गर्ने मान्छे चाहेला होइन त हो त्यतातिर तपाईँको जब रिप्लेस भएको होइन जबको चेन्ज भएको मोडल त्यो मोडल चेन्ज जुन जबको मोडल चेन्ज भयो र नयाँ जब क्रिएट भयो जब नयाँ क्रिएट भएको छ बिकज अफ द चेन्ज इन द एआई होइन त्यसलाई चाहिँ अब तपाईँको ट्रेनिङ दिएर उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ अब इम्प्लोइजलाई त्यो इन्भाइरोमेन्ट दिएर लर्न गर्ने चाहिँ तपाईँको अल द टाइम लर्निङ सुड बी द कल्चर विदिन द अर्गनाइजेसन त्यो भयो भने आई थिङ्क त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रपरली हामी इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्न सक्छौँ अब जसले चाहिँ होइन ल अब जसले चाहिँ गर्न आउँछ म कहाँ चाहिँ पुरानो स्टाफ राखेर गर्ने म कहाँ पुरानो इम्प्लोइजको गर्ने म चाहिँ जसलाई आउँछ त्यसलाई चाहिँ गर्छु अब भन्यो भने त्यो पुरानो इम्प्लोइज भनेको त के हो भन्दाखेरि दे नो आवर कल्चर दे नो द भ्याल्यु सिस्टम अफ द अर्गनाइजेसन दे आर द रियल एसेट अफ द अर्गनाइजेसन त्यो इम्प्लोयरले बुझ्यो भने आई थिङ्क इट विल बी बेनिफिसियल अदरवाइज अब तपाईँको चाहिँ त्यो क्योस हुन्छ त्यो अर्गनाइजेसनमा जस्तो लाग्छ त्यही भएर यो लर्निङ कल्चर चाहिँ डेभलप गर्न पऱ्यो विदिन द अर्गनाइजेसन र माइन्ड सेट अफ लर्निङ हुनु पऱ्यो विदिन द इम्प्लोइज
यो तपाईँले भन्दै गर्दाखेरि मलाई के लागिरहेछ भने इफ पिपल रेजिस्ट चेन्ज इभन द बेस्ट सिस्टम्स फेल नि होइन र यतापट्टि हामीले एजुकेसनकै कुरामा गर्दाखेरि अब एजुकेसनको सिलेबस चेन्ज गर्न वर्षौँ लाग्छ भने त होइन हामीलाई नयाँ स्किल चाहिन्छ एडाप्टेबिलिटी चाहियो यो चाहियो भन्यो भने चाहिँ त्यो एजुकेसनमा पनि के हुन्छ होला जस्तो लाग्छ मैले 25 वर्ष अगाडि काठमाडौँ युनिभर्सिटी स्कुल अफ म्यानेजमेन्ट पढाउँदाखेरि म पढाउन गएको कारण किन भन्दा आफू सिक्नका लागि गएको होइन र जुन चाहिँ पद्धतिमा पढाइरहेको थियो अलिकति फरक किसिमले गर्ने अब केस स्टडी मेथडबाट गर्ने भन्दाखेरि नेपालको केस स्टडी त्यति बेला पाइँदैन थियो होइन अहिले पनि धेरै छैन किनभने कसरी सिक्ने किताबमा दिएको चिज त अहिले त नोटबुक एलएलएममा हाल्यो भने त त्यसले सिन्थेसाइज गरेर 1 घन्टामा दिइदिन्छ होइन र त्यो पनि छ सो उषाजीलाई डाक्टर उषालाई क्वेसन एट अ सिस्टम लेभलमा होइन हाउ डु वी इन्स्योर द्याट दिस ट्रान्जिसन रिमेन्स इन्क्लुसिभ होइन so that women, youth outside cities and those from non-traditional background are not left behind.
अब यसमा चाहिँ यसरी हेर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई पहिला कुरा त म यसलाई अलिकति सोशल इन्क्लुजनको पर्सपेक्टिभबाट पनि म एन्सर गर्न खोज्छु यसलाई चाहिँ अब हामीले मोस्टली चाहिँ एजुकेसन सिस्टममा हेर्दाखेरि लिभ नो एन्ड बिहाइन्डको कन्सेप्टलाई चाहिँ राख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ कोही पनि छुटेन है भन्ने खालको एक्सेस एन्ड इन्क्लुजन इज भेरी भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट यसमा त्यसकारण अब रुरल ब्याकग्राउन्डबाट आएको मान्छेदेखि लिएर जोग्राफिकल्ली ब्याकवर्डेड मान्छेहरूदेखि लिएर वुमेन डिसएडभान्टेज ग्रुप होइन अब एलजिबिटिआइक्यू के हो यो सबै खालकोहरूले चाहिँ अपर्च्युनिटिज पाउँछन् भन्ने किसिमले हेर्नु पऱ्यो अब त्यो हुनको लागि चाहिँ त्यो पुग्नु पऱ्यो कि त्यहाँनिर अब जस्तो अब डिजिटलाइज्ड एजमा पनि कस्तो छ भनेदेखि रुरल एरियाको कुरा गर्ने हो भने त कनेक्टिभिटीको कुराहरू इन्स्योर गर्न सक्नु पऱ्यो होइन अनि त्यस्तै गरेर चाहिँ अघि सुदर्शनजीले भन्नुभएको जस्तो ट्रेनिङहरू अब यदि अर्गनाइजेसनमा हो भनेदेखि अर्गनाइजेसनमा भएका नि विविध खालका मान्छेहरूको चाहिँ ट्रेनिङहरूको अथवा उहाँहरूको एक्सपोजरको चाहिँ इन्स्योर गर्नु पऱ्यो अर्को कुरो चाहिँ अब हामीले करिकुला मात्र भन्छौँ कतिपय इन्स्टिट्युसन्सहरूमा राम्रा युनिभर्सिटिजहरू विदेशका युनिभर्सिटिजहरूमा करिकुला अपडेटेड हुन्छ त्यो एभ्री इयर हुन्छ कसरी हुन्छ भने रिभ्यू गर्छन् एनालिसिस गर्छन् वाट डिड नट वर्क भन्छन् त्यस पछाडि चेन्जेस गर्नुपर्ने कुराहरू के भन्छन् के हो भनेर त्यसलाई एडिसनली राख्दै पनि लैजान्छन् त्यो 100% चेन्ज गर्दैनन् 80% होला 90% रिमेन होला 10% एडिसनल कुराहरू राख्ने अथवा त्यसलाई अपडेट गर्ने गर्छन् भनेपछि त्यस्तो खालको सिस्टमहरू पनि इनिसिएट गर्न सकिन्छ सो देयर आर वे आउट एक्चुअली देयर आर वे आउट यसलाई कम्प्याटेबल बनाउन लेबर मार्केटको रेलेभेन्ट बनाउन र चेन्जेस टेक्नोलोजी र यो के भन्छ डिजिटलाइजेसन्स प्लस अन्य टेक्नोलोजीहरूसँग कम्प्याटेबल बनाउनको लागि चाहिँ दिस क्यान बी डन बट द सिस्टम हेज टु बी क्रिएटेड एन्ड हु क्रिएट्स द सिस्टम इज डेफिनेटली इट इज इम्प्लोयर्स एन्ड एजुकेसन सिस्टम एक्टर्स बोथ भन्ने चाहिँ लाग्छ मलाई चाहिँ
थ्याङ्क यू उषाजी अब हामी अडियन्सबाट क्वेसन्सहरू पनि लिन्छौँ प्लिज बी रेडी आवर फ्रेन्ड्स फ्रम ग्रोथ सेलर्स विल गो अराउन्ड विथ द माइक फर द ह्यान्ड्स द्याट इज रेज्ड while you are thinking about the question हामीले यहाँ एउटा कुरा छुटेको चाहिँ के छ भन्दाखेरि गभर्नमेन्टको रोल चाहिँ के त हैन अब यो नयाँ सरकार पनि बन्दैछ हैन सो त्यसमा पनि केही थट्सहरु इमिडिएट नभए पनि as the question come in maybe you can formulate some because I felt that one part was not discussed हैन यहाँ के गर्न सकिन्छ के सजेसन दिन सक्छ उहाँहरुलाई हैन के पनि हुन सक्छ So we'll open the floor for questions. If there are interested individuals who might want to ask a question, we'll take a question or two together, and then we'll have the responses. I see a hand going up.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. म त अल्छी लाएर मात्र यसो गरेको कि. So दुईटा भयो. माइक चाहिँ पहिला उहाँ गा जस्तो लाग्यो हैन सेकेन्डमा चाहिँ उहाँ लेडीलाई दिउँ है रेडी हुनको लागि अनि क्वेसन गर्दाखेरि यो सेसन गजब भयो भन्नु पर्दैन हामीलाई थाहा छ दामी भइरहेछ हैन आफ्नो नाम र अर्गनाइजेसन भन्नु होला अनि प्रश्न कसलाई भनेर डाइरेक्ट गरिदिनु होला है
हस् थ्याङ्क यू सो मच म सङ्गम उप्रेती नलेज एपबाट
अलिकति जोडले है
म सङ्गम उप्रेती नलेज एपबाट मोस्ट प्रोबेबली यो डिस्कसनसँग कनेक्टेड पनि हुन्छ मेरो अर्गनाइजेसनले जे गरिरहेको छ त्यो चाहिँ हाम्रो लर्निङ प्लेटफर्म नै हो टार्गेटेड फर कर्पोरेट्स इट्स अ कर्पोरेट लर्निङ प्लेटफर्म अनि लर्निङ कल्चरमै काम गरिरहेको हो हामीहरूले र आज यो बारेमा मजाले कुराहरू उठ्यो वी आर रियली ह्याप्पी र धेरै प्रशंसा पनि नगरौँ सुमन सरले भनिसक्नु भएको छ सो मेरो एउटा क्वेसन चाहिँ लास्टमा सुमन सरले उठाउनु पनि भयो कि गभर्मेन्ट के गर्ने गभर्मेन्टले होइन उसको रोल के हुने यसमा मेरो उसँग पनि क्वेसन एनजिओजदेखि गभर्मेन्टसँग पनि काम गर्नु भएको छ अभियसली होइन सो अघि उठेको कुरामा सुदर्शन सरहरूले जुन कलेज ओन गरिनु भएको छ गेटा भन्नुभयो होइन सो उहाँहरूले आफैले करिकुलम बनाउनु भयो इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्नुभयो आफू इन्डस्ट्रीमा पनि हुनुहुन्छ त्यो दुईटाको ग्याप पनि देख्नु भएको छ राइट सो मेरो एउटा क्वेसन चाहिँ क्यान all the stakeholders including government trust this process यदि इन्डस्ट्री एम्प्लोयर र एम्प्लोइजको कुरा आयो नि एम्प्लोयर एम्प्लोइज र एजुकेटर यदि उनीहरूलाई फ्रीली काम गर्न दिएर तिमीहरूको ग्याप फुलफिल गरेर हेर हामी रेगुलेटरी बडिजहरू छौँ हामीले चाहिँ तिमीहरूलाई जस्ट रेगुलेसन गर्छौँ भनेर एजुकेसनमा पनि अरू फिल्डमा गरे जस्तै गर्न सक्ला यो चाहिँ मेरो एउटा मैले क्वेसन रेज गरेँ उषा म्यामलाई अनि
यो चाहिँ उषा म्यामलाई
अनि सुदर्शन सरलाई चाहिँ थ्याङ्क यू सो मच तर एउटा कुरा चाहिँ म क्लियर गर्न चाहन्छु है यहाँ एचआरहरू पनि हुनुहुन्छ अलिअलि एचआरहरूको पनि कुराहरू उठ्यो एचआर एलएनडीको पनि कुराहरू आयो होइन मैले एउटा एकदमै गजबको ग्याप देखिरहेको चाहिँ अघि पनि कुराहरू आयो मेबी अब तपाईँ त्यो पोजिसनमा हुनुहुन्छ एकजना अरू 1000जना चाहिँ अरू एम्प्लोइज होला होइन अनलाइनमा लर्ज अफ मटेरियल पाउँछ गएर पढ न भन्नु र बाले हे पढ्दैन भन्नु उस्तै लाग्छ कि मलाई एउटा त्यो दोस्रो कुरा हामी कतिको सिरियस भइरहेका छौँ ट्रु लर्निङ कल्चर आफ्नो अर्गनाइजेसनमा इन्स्टिल गर्न है अलमोस्ट एभ्री पर्सनलाई यहाँ सोध्ने हो भने खत्तम छ यार बर्बाद छ लर्निङ फेरि त्यही नै हो हामी नेपालीहरू रुटमा पुग्दाखेरि पढ्न चाहँदैनौँ सिक्न चाहँदैनौँ गर्नै चाहँदैनौँ त्यो गर्न चाहेर गरेका 1% सरहरू त्यहीँ हुनुहुन्छ होइन सुदर्शन सर त्यत्रो एउटा ग्रुपलाई लिडै गरिनु भएको छ सो त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ के गर्न सकिन्छ पढ्न सिक्न नचाहनेलाई के गर्ने मैले नोट गरेको क्वेसनहरूमा होइन अनि हाउ क्यान एचआर एलएनडी एन्ड म्यानेजर्स कलेक्टिभली सल्भ दिस आई थिङ्क दिस इज रियली सिरियस इस्यु होइन अनि अर्को चाहिँ एउटा मैले प्रायः भन्ने
एउटा क्वेसन सँगसँगै आयो यो त
खासमा त अघि मलाई फिल भइरहेको थियो कि म पनि त्यहीँ आएर सोध्नु पर्ने जस्तो लागिरहेको थियो टाइम पनि कम छ सर एउटा क्वेसन चाहिँ म उठाइहाल्छु स्योर सर मैले एउटा चाहिँ के भन्ने गरेको छु भने एचआर एन्ड एलएनडी गाइज यु आर द एजुकेसन मिनिस्टर अफ योर अर्गनाइजेसन बट हेभ यु थट अबाउट इट हाउ क्यान युज दिस पावर भन्ने गरेको छु सुदर्शन सरलाई यो लाइनलाई लिएर सरले कतिको इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्नु भएको छ हजुरको अर्गनाइजेसनमा भन्ने सोध्न चाहेँ धेरै क्वेसन थियो पछि सोध्नु लागि कुराहरू
थ्याङ्क यू फर यर क्वेसन यो क्वेसन अलिक लामो भएकोले उहाँ लेडीको एकछिन पछि गरौँ पहिला आन्सर लिउँ होइन ल डक्टर उषा
धन्यवाद तपाईँको क्वेसन असाध्यै महत्त्वपूर्ण क्वेसन छ अघि सुदर्शनजीले पनि यो सरकारले अथवा पोलिसी लेभलबाट चाहिँ के गर्ने त्यो कुरामा नि अलिकति सुमनजीले भन्नुभएको थियो त्यसैमा मैले लिङ्क गरेँ पहिलो कुरो चाहिँ सबैले सबैतिर काम गर्न मिल्छ कि मिल्दैन भन्ने कुरामा आयो होइन त वास्तवमा मिल्छ तर के हो त सरकारले के गर्नु पर्यो गभर्मेन्टले के गर्नु पर्यो भनेपछि पोलिसी कस्तो हुनु पर्यो र त्यो छ पनि अहिले है त जुन यो अरूको लागि पनि इन्ट्रेस्टिङ हुनसक्छ क्वालिफिकेसन फ्रेमवर्क छ नेपालमा नेसनल क्वालिफिकेसन फ्रेमवर्क 2020 मेमा क्याबिनेटबाट यो नेपाल सरकारले चाहिँ अप्रुभ गरेको छ यसले चाहिँ नेपालको शिक्षा प्रणाली चाहिँ 8वटा तहमा भनेर दिएको छ त्यसमा यो टिभीटी सेक्टरको लाइन पनि छ अनि साधारण शिक्षाको पनि छ त्यसमा बेसिक एजुकेसन हायर एजुकेसन र टिबेटको सबै छ यो कतिजनालाई थाहा छैन होला यो 2020बाट 26 भनेको 26 भइसक्दाखेरि पनि हामी एजुकेसन सिस्टमका कतिपय मान्छेहरूलाई यो थाहा छैन है त भनेपछि मैले भन्न खोजेँ के भने यस्ता खालका नीतिहरू जुन तयार भएका छन् त्यसले चाहिँ डेस्क्रिप्टर्सहरू दिन्छ कि अघि हामीले जति पनि कुरा गऱ्यौँ जस्तो तह 3 भने के हो तह 4 भने के हो त्यो भनेको चाहिँ ब्याचलर डिग्री भनेको लेभल 6 मा पर्छ मास्टर्स भनेको लेभल 7 पिएचडी भनेको लेभल 8 मा पर्छ अनि टिबेटमा पनि ब्याचलर अफ टेक्नोलोजी भनेको 6, 7, 8 भनेर पर्छ नेसनल डिप्लोमा भन्ने अनेक खालका टाइटलहरू सहितका चाहिँ यो फ्रेमवर्क छ मुलुकमा यो फ्रेमवर्कलाई मा चाहिँ डेस्क्रिप्टर्सहरू मिनिमम क्राइटेरियाहरू दिएको हुन्छ के तह 6 मा अथवा यो चाहिँ ब्याचलर अफ टेक्नोलोजी पढाउने हो भने हस्पिटालिटी सेक्टरमा चाहिँ के कुरा हुनुपर्छ भनेर दिन्छ के भनेपछि यसले चाहिँ नेसनल सिस्टम यस्ता खालका सिस्टमहरू दिने काम चाहिँ सरकारले गर्ने र सिस्टमलाई इम्प्लिमेन्ट गरेको निर्क्युल गर्ने काम चाहिँ गर्ने हो र यसको क्वालिटी एस्योरेन्स गर्ने काम चाहिँ सरकारको तहबाट गर्न सकिन्छ यसलाई इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्ने त आखिर इन्स्टिट्युसन्सहरू नै हुन् इम्प्लोयर्सहरू नै हुन् त्यसकारण इम्प्लोयर्सहरूले त्यो डेस्क्रिप्टर्समा दिएअनुसार त्यसमा दिएका मिनिमम स्ट्यान्डर्ड्सलाई चाहिँ कम्प्लाई त्यसमा चाहिँ के भन्छ अरे मिल्ने म्याच गर्ने गरेर करिकुलाहरू डेभलप गर्नुपर्छ, अपडेट गर्नुपर्छ र त्यसलाई फिडब्याक पनि दिनुपर्छ। किनभने त्यो जुन स्ट्यान्डर्ड्सहरू छ त्यस चाहिँ अघि नै हामीले छलफल गरेअनुसार लेबर मार्केट चेन्जेस हुँदाखेरि त्यसमा पनि चेन्जेस ल्याउनु पर्ने भएको हुनाले गर्न सक्छ। यसले दुईटा फाइदा हुन्छ। एउटा चाहिँ सिस्टम टोटल सिस्टमको ट्रान्सप्यारेन्सी देखिन्छ, इम्प्लोयर्सले के गरिरहेछ, एजुकेसन सिस्टमले के गरिरहेछ, फेरि उहाँहरूले आफैले मात्र तालिम दिने होइन। अब सोल्टी ग्रुप इज भेरी गुड, प्रिभिलेज्ड वान, गेट कलेज छ र भयो, तर सबै सेक्टरको त सेक्टरल इन्स्टिट्युसन्सहरू त छैन। नभएपछि चाहिँ दे निड टु कोलाबरेट विथ पब्लिक इन्स्टिट्युसन्स, प्राइभेट इन्स्टिट्युसन्स। भनेपछि पब्लिक इन्स्टिट्युसन्स एन्ड प्राइभेट इन्स्टिट्युसन्स अल्सो नो द्याट वाट इज देयर इन द्याट फ्रेमवर्क होइन। अब युथहरूको लागि, युवा युवतीहरूको लागि, केटाकेटीहरूको लागि पनि त्यो चाहिँ एकदम ट्रान्सप्यारेन्ट सिस्टम हो कि मैले यो तहको कार्यक्रम गरेँ भने म योभन्दा माथि यो लिन सक्दो रहेछु, यो भनेको तह 5 भनेको चाहिँ कमी 3, 4 के रहेछ भने यो भनेको सेफ रहेछ, यो भनेको सु सेफ रहेछ, कुनै के हो तल माथिबाट है मलाई भन्न आएन भन्ने खालको चाहिँ दे नो इट। अनि त्यसको चाहिँ इम्प्लोयर्सले अब उसले यसो गुगल गर्यो भने अहिले यत्रो डिजिटल टेक्नोलोजीको कुरा गर्दा गुगल गर्यो भने यसमा त तलब यति हुँदो रहेछ, नेपालमा भन्दा बाहेक चाहिँ अन्त पनि यसको कम्पिटिटिभ मार्केट रहेछ भन्ने कुरा पनि उसले जान्दछ। अनि प्लस अघि नको कुरामा आयो मल्टी स्किलिङका कुरा इज भेरी भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट। किनकि हाम्रो स्किल सेट्सहरू चेन्ज भइरहेछ भने मल्टी स्किलिङका कुराहरू पनि एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्ण छ। अनि त्यो अघिनको फ्रेमवर्कको कुरा गर्दा विभिन्न खालका टाइममा लिएका स्किल्सहरूलाई रिकग्निसन अफ प्रायर लर्निङबाट त्यसले चाहिँ रिकग्नाइज गर्ने प्रावधान पनि छ कि। मैले एउटा एक्जाम्पल दिएँ, यस्ता खालका नीतिहरू नेपालमा थुप्रै छ, अनफर्चुनेटली इम्प्लिमेन्ट भइरहेको छैन। अब अहिले नयाँ सरकार बन्ने क्रममा वी आर भेरी भेरी होपफुल यो टोटल सिस्टममा चाहिँ कसरी यसलाई इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्ने भन्ने खालका कुराहरू पनि लिएर जान्छन् होला। यहाँको एन्सरको लागि चाहिँ पिपल एभ्री वान सपोज टु वर्क, एभ्री वान क्यान डु इट, बट सिस्टम सुड बी नेसनल वान अनि इट इज देयर है त।
थ्याङ्क यू उषाजी। ओभर टु सुदर्शनजी।
थ्याङ्क यू तपाईँको क्वेसनलाई। यो सरकारले गर्ने चिजको चाहिँ मैले चाहिँ एउटै मात्र स्टेटमेन्ट, धेरै पोलिसिजहरू बनेको पनि छ म्यामले भने जस्तो। आई थिङ्क नेपालमा चाहिँ मैले रियलाइज गर्दाखेरि पोलिसी प्रोसिजर्सहरू चाहिँ एकदम धेरै बनेको छ, एकदम राम्रो पनि बनेको छ, तर त्यसको इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको पार्टमा चाहिँ कमी कमजोरी छ। आई थिङ्क हाम्रो चाहिँ यो स्किल डेभलप गर्ने चिजमा चाहिँ एकाडेमिक्स भन्दा पनि सर्ट टर्म कोर्सेस अलिकति बढी प्रमोसन गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ गभर्मेन्टले। मोड्युल्सहरू प्रमोट गर्ने, त्यसलाई चाहिँ कम्पलसरी बनाइदिने, विदिन अर्गनाइजेसन चाहिँ यतिवटा सर्ट टर्म कोर्सेस चाहिँ गर्नै पर्छ भन्ने पोलिसिजहरू लिएर आयो भने यो तपाईँको केही पनि रकेट साइन्स छैन यसमा होइन। त्यसले गर्दा आई थिङ्क यो हुँदै पनि जान्छ। र अब नयाँ गभर्मेन्टको बाट के एक्सपेक्टेसन भन्दाखेरि त्यसलाई चाहिँ चाँडोभन्दा चाँडो त्यो चिजमा चाहिँ इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन प्रोसेसमा जानु पऱ्यो भन्ने कुरा नै हो। सर्ट टर्म कोर्सेस, भोकेसनल कोर्सेसहरूलाई चाहिँ जसले चाहिँ चाँडोभन्दा एकदम चाँडो स्किलफुल मेन पावर डेभलप गर्न सकिन्छ त्यो भोकेसनल ट्रेनिङ्समा चाहिँ फोकस गर्नु पऱ्यो गभर्मेन्टले। आई थिङ्क त्यो गर्छ पनि जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई मेरो विचारमा। अर्को उहाँले सोधेको एचआर, इम्प्लोइज, यो लर्निङ एन्ड डेभलपमेन्ट चाहिँ कसरी कोलाबोरेट गरेर लिएर जाने भन्ने चिज चाहिँ विदिन अर्गनाइजेसनको सिस्टममा वी हेभ टु डेभलप सच सिस्टम वेयर अल द एसओपिज, जुन गभर्मेन्टको पोलिसिज भनेको जस्तो अर्गनाइजेसनको एसओपिज हो, स्ट्यान्डर्ड अपरेटिङ प्रोसिजर्स, त्यो हरेक अर्गनाइजेसनले एक वर्षमा रिभ्यू गर्नुपर्छ र चेन्ज गर्नुपर्छ र त्यसको ट्रेनिङ दिनुपर्छ। र यो एचआर, लर्निङ एन्ड डेभलपमेन्ट र सिनियर म्यानेजमेन्ट टिम अफ द अर्गनाइजेसन भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट, त्यसको एउटा सेल बन्नुपर्छ जस्तै हाम्रोमा छ, जसले चाहिँ रिभ्यू गर्छ कस्तो किसिमको चाहिँ ट्रेनिङ एसेसमेन्ट कस्तो दिने भनेर। र त्यो एसेसमेन्टको आधारमा इन्डिभिजुअल पनि हुन्छ, डिपार्टमेन्ट वाइज पनि हुन्छ, र त्यसको बेसिसमा वी प्रोभाइड ट्रेनिङ्स। र 33 को मोड्युलमा चाहिँ हामी ट्रेनिङ दिन्छौँ। 33 पर्सनल डेभलपमेन्ट ट्रेनिङ्स, 33% स्किल डेभलपमेन्ट, पर्टिकुलरली उसको स्किल यो वर्ष केमा एनहान्स गर्नुपर्ने जरुरी छ, र अर्को बाँकी 33% चाहिँ प्रेजेन्टेसन, अर्गनाइजेसनको ग्रोथहरूको बारेमा चाहिँ ट्रेनिङ। त्यसरी चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ मोड्युल्सहरू रेडी गरेर ट्रेनिङ्सहरू गर्छौँ। Thank you, I think.
Thank you very much. So I'll move to our next question. There was a lady who had पहिला उहाँलाई, त्यसपछि मैले यहाँ हात हेरेँ र तपाईँको एकपल्ट माइक उहाँलाई दिउँ न है, प्लिज डोन्ट माइन्ड। हुन्छ यहाँ अघि नै हात उठाउनु भएकोले इज देयर अनदर फ्रेन्ड फ्रम ग्रोथ सेलर्स हु क्यान अलिकति हिँडेको होइन दौडेको जस्तो गरेर अघि जस्तै नाम संस्था कहाँबाट आउनु भएको प्रश्न चाहिँ छोटो राख्नु होला कसलाई सोध्नु भएको भनेर अनि म तपाईँको पनि आउँछु है प्लिज डोन्ट माइन्ड
हुन्छ थ्याङ्क यू मेरो नाम निर्मला मैनाली हो म हेल्भेटास भन्ने संस्थामा काम गर्छु हामी पनि स्किल डेभलपमेन्टकै सेक्टर भएको भएर चाहिँ मेरो लागि यो डिस्कसन झनै इन्ट्रेस्टिङ लाग्यो अघि सुमन सरले क्वेसन सोध्दै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ यो डोनरहरूले इम्प्लोएबिलिटीको पार्टलाई चाहिँ किन फोकस नगरेको भनेर सानो एउटा प्रश्न उठाउनु भएको थियो मैले त्यसमा अलिकति जोड्न खोजेको इम्प्लोएबिलिटीको पार्टलाई एड्रेस गर्नलाई हाम्रो संस्था मार्फत एप्रेन्टिससिप मोडलमा चाहिँ प्रोग्राम चलिरहेछ एप्रेन्टिससिप मोडल आई थिङ्क सुदर्शन सरले राम्ररी बुझ्नुहुन्छ यो 3 महिना विद्यार्थीहरूले चाहिँ इन्स्टिट्युटमा सिक्छन् रिमेनिङ 19 मन्थ चाहिँ उनीहरू होटेलमै गएर सिक्छन् त्यहाँ काम गर्दै सिक्छन् अब मेरो प्रश्न सुदर्शन सरलाई अहिले हामीले फेस गरेको चाहिँ सिनारियो कस्तो छ भने एउटा एसई दिएको बच्चा एसई अटेन्ड गरेको बच्चा जो पास पनि भएको हुँदैन त्यो बच्चा आएर हामी कहाँ इनरोल हुन्छ 3 महिना इन्स्टिट्युटमा पढ्छ र त्यसपछि चाहिँ एउटा 5 स्टार होटल 4 स्टार होटलमा चाहिँ ऊ चाहिँ प्लेस हुन्छ अब त्यो 14-15 वर्षको बच्चा होटेलले उसलाई चाहिँ 14 घन्टा 16 घन्टा काममा राखिदिन्छ उसलाई पे गर्ने भनेको नेपाल सरकारले तोकेको तलबको 25% विच इज हार्डली 5,000 रुपिस अब बच्चा 1 महिना त्यहाँ काम गर्छ अनि त्यसपछिबाट हामी हेर्न जाँदा बच्चा हुँदैन अनि वेन वी रिच टु देम एन्ड आस्क देम किन छोड्यौ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब 5,000मा म 8 घन्टाको साटो म 10 घन्टा काम गर्न सक्छु तर 16 घन्टा राखिदिएपछि मलाई घरबाटै नजाऊ भन्नुभयो अनि एकदमै लङ वर्किङ सिफ्ट भयो भन्ने खालको चाहिँ उहाँहरूको कुरा छ हामीले यो डिस्कसनमा धेरै छलफल गऱ्यौँ करिकुलमदेखि लिएर गभर्मेन्टको रोलदेखि लिएर तर सिम्पली एउटा इन्डस्ट्रीको वर्किङ इन्भाइरोमेन्ट इम्प्रुभ गर्न केले रोक्छ सुदर्शन सर लौन मलाई भनिदिनु पर्यो किनभने म 10 वर्षदेखि स्किल डेभलपमेन्टको सेक्टरमा काम गरिरहेको छु तर प्रोग्रेस हेर्दाखेरि कहिलेकाहीँ म आफैलाई दिक्क लाएर आउँछ एउटा प्रश्न मेरो सुदर्शन सरलाई अर्को प्रश्न उषा म्याडमलाई
अर्को पनि रहेछ
सक्यो
यो सर्ट भूमिका कम प्रश्न लामो
यो एभ्री इयर नेपाल छोडेर जाने युवाहरू हाम्रो देशबाट फरेन इम्प्लोइमेन्टमा जाने डेटा हेर्ने हो भने 7 देखि 8 लाख छ हामी नेपालको लेबर मार्केटको भोलिको निड चाहिँ कसरी पुरा गर्ने भनेर चाहिँ कुरा गरिरहेछौँ हैन तर अब मेजोरिटी अफ युथ आर लिभिङ कन्ट्री अनि त्यो इन्टरनेसनल स्किल निड्सलाई चाहिँ एड्रेस गर्न सबैको तहबाट कस्तो खालको रोल हुनपर्छ होला यो प्रश्न मेरो म्यामलाई हस् थ्याङ्क यू
थ्याङ्क यू फर यर क्वेसन्स लौ न सुदर्शन सर भनिदिनु पऱ्यो
लौ न एकदम उहाँले एकदम जायज एकदमै चाहिँ भ्यालिड क्वेसन उहाँको आई डोन्ट नो कुन चाहिँ अर्गनाइजेसनले 16 आवर्स चाहिँ तपाईँको गराइरहेछ भने चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ आई थिङ्क एचआरमा पनि तपाईँले गएर भन्नु पऱ्यो होइन उसको पर्मिसन बिना विदाउट द पर्मिसन अफ द इम्प्लोइज अर द ट्रेनिज अर द इन्टर्न्स चाहिँ त्यो काम गराउन पाउँदैन म चाहिँ
पाउँदैन भनेको लिगली पाउँदैन लिगली पाउँदैन
8 आवर्सभन्दा बढी चाहिँ विदाउट द कन्सेन्ट अफ द इम्प्लोइज अर द ट्रेनिज अर द इन्टर्नसिप अर द आर्टिकलसिप यो चाहिँ आम अ चार्टर अकाउन्टेन्ट बाई प्रोफेसन होइन म चार्टर अकाउन्टेन्सी गर्दाखेरि 3 इयर्सको यो आर्टिकलसिप पिरियड हुन्छ क्या हाम्रो होइन त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ 14-15 घन्टा 16 घन्टा 18 घन्टा चाहिँ त्यो काम गरेको याद आउँछ होइन त्यो ट्रेनिङ पिरियडमा त्यो आर्टिकल पिरियडमा सिनियर्सहरूले त्यो लगाउने चाहिँ त्यो एज अ नर्मल प्र्याक्टिसै हो त्यो होइन कतिपय चिज किनभने त्यो उहाँहरूले जो ट्रेनिङमा गएको हुन्छ आर्टिकलसिप इन्टर्नसिपमा गएको हुन्छ उहाँहरूलाई हाई एन्ड त्यो तपाईँको काम दिएको हुँदैन डिसिजन मेकिङको काम दिएको हुँदैन ऊ अघि म्यामले भने जस्तो स्टेपल गर्ने ब्याङ्कमा होइन त्यो हामीले पनि गरेका थियौँ मैले फर्स्टमा तपाईँको सिएको आर्टिकलसिपमा 3 मन्थ्स फाइलिङ कसरी गर्ने भनेर चाहिँ सिकेँ जस्ट फाइल पन्च गर्ने र त्यो प्रपरली फाइल कहिले माथि हुनु पनि भएन तल पनि पञ्च हुनु भएन त्यसलाई बिचबाट फोल्ड गरेर पञ्च गरेर फाइल गर्ने द्याट वाज द ट्रेनिङ फर 3 months द्याट्स भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट त्यो चाहिँ लाइफको एकदम इम्पोर्टेन्ट ट्रेनिङ मध्ये मान्छु म स्टेपल गर्ने इज अ भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट ट्रेनिङ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई बिकज त्यो ग्राउन्ड लेभल रुट लेभलको ट्रेनिङ हो त्यो होइन त्यो ट्रेनिङ गर्दाखेरि आई थिङ्क अब त्यो मेन पावर कम भएर के भएर चाहिँ भयो होला त्यो तपाईँको 5,000 को कुरा चाहिँ अब त्यो गभर्मेन्टले नै त्यति डिटर्मिन गरेको छ 25% त्यसले गर्दाखेरि नेपालको आई थिङ्क अब तपाईँको मिनिमम वेजेस अहिले चाहिँ 21,000 को तपाईँको चाहिँ मिनिमम वेजेस छ होइन त्यसको 25% चाहिँ आर्टिकलसिप इन्टर्नसिपमा दिनुपर्छ भन्ने छ त्यो चाहिँ तपाईँको चाहिँ एज अ स्यालेरी दिएको होइन कि उनीहरूको ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन खर्च अथवा चाहिँ आउने जाने खर्च भनेर दिएको जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई एज फार एज आई नो होइन त्यसले गर्दा त्यो इनफ्याक्ट कतिवटा अर्गनाइजेसनले इन्क्लुडिङ आवर अर्गनाइजेसन हामीले चाहिँ अलिक बढी पनि दिन्छौँ त्यो चिजहरू बिकज लुकिङ एट द सिनारियो त्यो चिजहरूलाई प्लस ड्रप स्रप सबै फेसिलिटीहरू हुन्छ घरसम्म पुऱ्याउने
त्यस्तो प्र्याक्टिसलाई डिस्करेज कसरी गर्ने त या के हुन्छ त त्यसो
डिस्करेज गर्ने उहाँको सेकेन्ड क्वेसन जुन छ नि
जेनरल प्र्याक्टिस
सेकेन्ड क्वेसन जुन उषा म्यामलाई छ सेकेन्ड क्वेसन
उषा
त्यो क्वेसनमा कनेक्टेड छ त्यो तपाईँ चाहिँ आजको डेटमा होटेल म्यानेजमेन्ट पढ्ने कलेजमा गएर तपाईँ सोध्नुहोस् त्यहाँको विद्यार्थीलाई 95% अफ द स्टुडेन्ट्स को वाइ डु स्टडी होटेल म्यानेजमेन्ट भनेर भन्नुभयो भने बिकज आई वान्ट टु गो अब्रोड ओके त्यो माइन्डसेट छ होइन 95 मोर देन 95% किनभने म होटेल म्यानेजमेन्ट पढ्यो भने इट्स इजियर फर मी टु गो अब्रोड त्यसले गर्दाखेरि आई एम स्टडिङ होटेल म्यानेजमेन्ट भन्ने आन्सर पाउनुहुन्छ तपाईँले सो वाट वी आर डुइङ वाट द करेन्ट सिनारियो इज तपाईँको चाहिँ त्यो पढ्दै गरेको स्टुडेन्ट्सले लिएर आएर काम गराउनु पर्ने अवस्था छ नेपालको इभन द 5 स्टार होटेल्स एन्ड 4 स्टार होटेल्स किन भन्दाखेरि आफ्टर दे कम्प्लिट देयर एजुकेसन दे आर गोन गो अब्रोड र त्यहाँ तपाईँको चाहिँ वी हेभ गट 2 होटेल्स इन जर्मनी हाम्रो जर्मनीमा चाहिँ 2टा होटेल अपरेट गर्छौँ हामीले त्यहाँ जान रेडी छ तर यहाँ काम गर्न रेडी छैन त्यो इम्प्लोइज होइन त्यहाँ चाहिँ तपाईँको चाहिँ गएर 12-15 घन्टा नै काम गर्न रेडी छ होइन तर यहाँ तपाईँको चाहिँ छैन किन बिकज अफ द पे अफकोर्स बिकज अफ द पे अब त्यो मोटिभेसन छ आई थिङ्क अब बिस्तारै त्यो चेन्ज पनि भइरहेछ त्यो चाहिँ उहाँको क्वेसनलाई चाहिँ त्यसै गरेर आन्सर गर्ने तपाईँको चाहिँ त्यो बिना कन्सेन्ट गएर त्यो काम गराउन पाउँदैन है तपाईँ गएर त्यहाँ एचआरमा कुरा गर्नुहोस् हाम्रो अर्गनाइजेसनमा छ भने मेरो चाहिँ एचआर डाइरेक्टरलाई पनि गएर कुरा गर्छु म है त हस् थ्याङ्क यू
अझ कडा कुरा गर्ने हो भने त पार्टनरसिपै नगर्नुहोस् त्यस्तो होटलहरूसँग होइन थ्याङ्क यू निर्मलाजी तपाईँको प्रश्नलाई चाहिँ मैले अब मेरो पर्सनल विचार हो म चाहिँ अब्रोड जानेलाई गलत मान्दिनँ किनभनेदेखि तपाईँको कुरालाई चाहिँ मैले माइग्रेसनको कन्सर्नबाट हेरेँ मैले एजुकेसनल माइग्रेसनको होइन कि यहाँबाट सिप सिकेर विदेशमा जानेहरूलाई मैले गलत माग्दिनँ माइग्रेसनको अध्ययनले के देखाउँछ भने 6 इयर्सको साइकल हुन्छ नर्मल्ली माइग्रेसनमा जानेहरूको होइन र उनीहरूको चाहिँ जाने अनि आउने गर्छ तर अथेन्टिक रुटबाट गएको हुनु पऱ्यो त्यहाँ बेटर अर्निङ गर्छ कल्चर सिक्छ थुप्रै खालका वर्किङ कल्चर सिक्छ यहाँनिर ठकठाक गर्ने हो भने उता गएर चाहिँ वर्किङ कल्चर पनि सिक्छ र प्लस सिप पनि स्किल्स पनि उसले थप एडिसनल स्किल्स पनि सिकेर आएको हुन्छ यहाँ नेपालमा के हुनु पऱ्यो भने देयर एडिसनल स्किल्स देयर सोसियल स्किल्स एज वेल एज एडिसनल अकुपेसनल स्किल्स ह्याज टु बी रिकगनाइज बाई नेपाली हाम्रो यो सिस्टमले रिकगनाइज गर्नु पऱ्यो यहाँको इको सिस्टमले रिकगनाइज गर्नु पऱ्यो अनि इफ दे विस टु गो टु लेबर मार्केट हेयर इन नेपाल इम्प्लोयर्सले पनि इजिली एक्सेप्ट गर्नु पऱ्यो र यदि उहाँहरूले हायर लेभलको कोर्सेसहरू लिन सक्नुहुन्छ भने त्यसलाई रिकगनाइज गरेको जुन रिकग्निसन अफ प्रायर लर्निङको माध्यमबाट रिकगनाइज गरेको स्किल्सको आधारमा दे सुड बी एबल टु गो टु हायर लेभल अफ स्किल्स ट्रेनिङ अथवा जेनरल एजुकेसनमा पनि उनीहरूले इन्ट्री गर्ने मौका चाहिँ हुनुपर्छ त्यसकारण बाहिर जानु नराम्रो होइन हाउ दे गो वाट दे अर्न वाट दे ब्रिङ्स ब्याक भन्ने खालको कुरालाई चाहिँ रिकगनाइज गर्न चाहिँ सक्नुपर्छ त्यस कारण हामीले फेरि यो चाहिँ ग्लोबल वर्ल्डमा रोक्न पनि सक्दैनौँ क्या इट इज अ कल्चर एक्चुली र यो चाहिँ सोसियल फिनोमेना हो माइग्रेसन भनेको सोसियल फिनोमेना हो त्यस कारण हामीले रोक्न सक्दैनौँ त्यस कारण चाहिँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ मैले यसरी लिएँ निर्मलाजी थ्याङ्क यू
Thank you for your answers as well. I'm cognizant of the time. We just have 5.5 minutes. So, तपाईहरु दुईजनाको हात देखेको थिएँ हैन तपाईको प्रश्न छोटो 2.5 मिनेट तपाईको प्रश्न 2.5 मिनेटमा आन्सर गर्ने हजुर है हुन्छ
Hi everyone. A very warm good morning. I'm Navina Upreti, working in a human resource department at Virtuous Way. And I'm being honest, I'm really, really honored among such professionals and senior. जसरी अघि कुरा उठेको थियो young at corporate and there is often gap between experience, skills and formal education. With due respect, while experienced professionals bring deep knowledge, and younger and newly freshers employees often come with fresh and creative idea. Sometimes this creates a disconnect where seniors may feel hesitate to accept the idea from junior, and junior may feel struggle to accept feedback, their idea challenge. So, how can leaders create a healthy environment where both experience and freshers' perspective are valued, and when both seniors and juniors learn to respect, listen, and grow from each other? I'm not asking this question on behalf of just my perspective. I'm asking this question on behalf of all the young people's, early 20s people who feel same this way. So yeah, question goes to Sudarshan sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, Sudarshan sir, like question ba. Your last question pani liyo. Okay, yahaबाट हात उठाउनु भइरहेको हजुर. एउटा माइक अनि दुईटा क्वेशनको सँगै आन्सर आएपछि अनि एउटा म लास्ट क्वेशन सोधौँला अनि हामी ब्रेक गरौँला.
Okay, sir, मेरो क्वेशन भन्दा पनि I had a query. मेरो अलिकति अपोजिट खालको
क्वेशन चाहिँ हैन क्वेरी हो.
Query हो.
फरक रहेछ.
Query in the sense कि we heard a constructive discussion on employment sector and academic.
अलिकति माइक नजिकमा राख्नुहुन्छ कि? हजुर.
Audible sir?
हजुर.
मेरो क्वेरी के थियो भन्दाखेरि we had a lot of discussion on यो करिकुलममा के करिकुलम भएन, स्किल बेस्ड करिकुलम भएन भन्ने. तर वर्ल्ड वाइडै प्र्याक्टिस के छ भन्दाखेरि करिकुलम आउटडेट हुने कुरा नै हो कि अभियसली हैन. MIT को पनि 2 वर्षपछि आउटडेटेड हुन्छ, हाम्रो पनि हुन्छ, सबैको हुन्छ. हामीले करिकुलमलाई बढी इम्पोर्टेन्स दिएर यो पछाडि लुक्न खोजेको पो कि किन अरू एस्पेक्टहरु पनि इम्पोर्टेन्स दिनुपर्ने हो कि भन्ने. आई थॉट that's the query sir.
यो क्वेशन चाहिँ कसलाई हो?
उहाँ दुवैजनालाई हो सर, किन दुवैजना करिकुलममै फोकस गर्नु भएको थियो.
So पहिला Dr. Usha, would you like to answer to this question and then Sudarshanजीले दुईटा
मैले छोटो आन्सर दिएँ. हामीले धेरै सोचे करिकुलम भन्दाखेरि यो त्यो एउटा त्यो बाइन्डिङ गरेको डकुमेन्ट भन्न ठान्छौँ. That is not the curriculum. है त करिकुलम भनेको चाहिँ इट्स नट ओन्ली द डकुमेन्ट द्याट हेज टु बी इम्प्लिमेन्टेड. करिकुलमले थुप्रै कुरालाई ल्याउँछ. तपाईँको आन्सरमा नै आइसकेको थियो, अरू एस्पेक्ट्स पनि भन्नुभयो नि. करिकुलम भनेको एउटा त्यो चाहिँ बुझ्दाखेरि चाहिँ एउटा कागज मात्र हो, एउटा के भन्छ फोल्डेड डकुमेन्ट मात्र हो. तर देयर आर सेभरल अदर एस्पेक्ट्स टु इम्प्लिमेन्ट द्याट करिकुलम. त्यस कारण तपाईँले आन्सर आफैले ल्याइसक्नु भएको छ. त्यो कागज मात्र होइन, अपडेटेड कागज मात्र होइन, त्यसलाई चाहिँ अन्य एस्पेक्ट्सहरू जस्तो अघि नै पनि हामीले धेरै छलफल गऱ्यौँ. टेक्नोलोजीदेखि लिएर लेबर मार्केटमा भएका चेन्जेसहरू, एटिच्युडमा लिएर आउनु पर्ने चेन्जेसदेखि लिएर थुप्रै कुराहरू गर्न सकिन्छ. एउटा त्यो भने मैले एउटा कुरा यो भन्नै पर्छ जस्तो लाग्यो. यो स्कुल टु वर्क ट्रान्जिसन भन्ने टर्म एकदम पपुलर छ क्या. स्कुल भनेको मैले जेनरली स्कुल 10 क्लास 11 12 को मात्र कुरा गरिनँ. इभन युनिभर्सिटी क्यान बी कन्सिडर एज स्कुल. त्यो स्कुलबाट लेबर मार्केटको ट्रान्जिसन गर्नको लागि चाहिँ थुप्रै एस्पेक्ट्सहरू चाहिँ हुन्छन्. जस्तो अब मोडल मिट, आई कन्सिडर हिम एज अ मोडल. मैले फेरि हिरोको मोडल भने होइन, युआर हिरो अफकोर्स, तर मैले भन्नु खोजेको हिरो इन हस्पिटालिटी सेक्टर. मोडल मिट यो भइरहेको छ नि, यो पनि एक किसिमको चाहिँ स्कुल टु वर्क ट्रान्जिसनको लागि काम गर्ने कुरा भयो. मोडल मिट होला, इन्डस्ट्रीहरूको भिजिट होला होइन, विभिन्न खालको तपाईँहरू एक्सकर्सन लानुहुन्छ, के गर्नुहुन्छ. देयर आर सो मेनी एस्पेक्ट्स. सो टु इम्प्लिमेन्ट द्याट करिकुलम देयर आर सो मेनी एस्पेक्ट्स हेज टु बी डन. सो यु हेभ अलरेडी एन्सर्ड युर क्वेसन्स. थ्याङ्क यू सो मच. सो यसलाई चाहिँ यसरी लिनुपर्छ होला है त. इट्स नट ओन्ली करिकुलम बट करिकुलम इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको डिफ्रेन्ट एस्पेक्ट्स हेज टु बी देयर.
ओके, सो यो हामीले चाहिँ करिकुलम भएन भनेर भनेको होइन. त्यो के हो भन्दाखेरि करिकुलम चाहिँ अपडेट गरिराख्नु पऱ्यो. त्यो भइ पनि रहेको छ र टाइम बेस्ड हुनु पऱ्यो र त्यो फ्याकल्टी पनि अलिकति अपडेटेड हुनु पऱ्यो र इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको पार्ट चाहिँ टाइमली हुनु पऱ्यो भन्न खोजेको. करिकुलम हाम्रो हुँदै भएन त्यो भन्न खोजेको होइन. आई डोन्ट थिङ्क हामीले चाहिँ त्यो डिस्कसन गरेको. त्यो फेरि गलत मेसेज नजाओस् फेरि. अर्को उहाँको क्वेसनमा एक्सपिरियन्स्ड इम्प्लोइज र न्यू कमर्सहरूलाई कसरी ब्यालेन्स गर्नुपर्छ भने इफ आइ एम करेक्ट द्याट्स द क्वेसन. सो त्यो त इट्स अ ब्यालेन्स इन एभ्री अर्गनाइजेसन. अहिले धेरै अर्गनाइजेसनले अड्याप्ट पनि गरिसकेको छ. यो एक्सपिरियन्स्ड जो चाहिँ 5-10 इयर्स काम गरिसकेको छ अर्गनाइजेसनमा र न्यू कमर्स, यसको ब्यालेन्सले नै तपाईँको अर्गनाइजेसन चल्ने हो इन टर्म्स अफ कस्ट फ्याक्टर, इन टर्म्स अफ द ब्यालेन्स अफ द नलेज एन्ड द ड्राइभ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि यो त एभ्री अर्गनाइजेसनमा अहिले कस्तो भइरहेको छ भन्दाखेरि 50-50 को कन्सेप्ट छ यो हैन। हाम्रो पनि छ, एचआरको धेरै हुनुहुन्छ, उहाँहरूलाई त्यो थाहा होला। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हामीले पनि ब्यालेन्स गरिरहेको छौँ। तपाईँहरूले त्यो फियर फ्याक्टर लिनु भएन, न्यू कमर्सहरूले पनि ओहो लिडर्सहरूले चाहिँ एक्सपिरियन्सलाई मात्रै चाहिँ प्रायोरिटी दियो, हामीलाई प्रायोरिटाइज गरेन भन्ने चिज हुँदै होइन। त्यो आई डोन्ट थिङ्क त्यो त्यस्तो लिडर्स हो भने चाहिँ आई डोन्ट थिङ्क द्याट्स अ गुड लिडर होइन। द्याट्स नट डिफाइन्ड एज अ लिडर, इज अ बस। ओके, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि यो ब्यालेन्स चाहिँ म एज अ लिडर मैले गरिरहेको छु, मेरो अर्गनाइजेसनमा भइरहेछ र आई थिङ्क लिडर्सहरूले त्यो गर्छन् यो ब्यालेन्स। र विदाउट ब्यालेन्सिङ दिस टु पिलर्स द अर्गनाइजेसन इज नट गोइङ टु मुभ फरवर्ड properly in a better way. Thank you.
Great. So we would end this panel with one question as a takeaway to both of them. You have 60 seconds each to answer, and then we'll have a quick summary and we'll end it. In 1 minute, what is one shift either people or organizations must make immediately, not 5 years from now, immediately to stay relevant in a technology-driven future?
60 seconds.
हजुर,
म चाहिँ के भन्छु भने move away from this certification-based system to competence-based system, be it in organization, employers' organization, be it in education system. So it is very, very important. And we have to champion it together. So education system, employment system, and all other stakeholders should come together, should work together. Of course, when I say all other systems, it is government. So government should take, a pride in bringing education system and employment system together and move away from competence-based system to certification-based system to competence-based system. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Usha. Sudarshan ji.
I'll say 3 things. One, there should be a research unit in every organization.
Excellent.
What kind of technology are you going to implement down the line? It has to be researched properly. There should be a research unit. Second, you make environment, very welcoming environment to implement those technologies in the organization. There should not be any kind of fear within the employees. And third, you make very learning environment, develop learning environment within the organization. There should be, the employees should learn, you should train the employees to implement those technologies. And fourth, I think I missed it out, you have to review those technologies, whether they are benefiting your organization or they are damaging your organization, and replace those technologies immediately.
Thank you, thank you. For me, the key word is adaptability. Either from the organization part or from the individual who are part of the organization. If they are not going to be adaptable and be open to what are the new things that are coming in, you'll be left behind. I've enjoyed talking to both of you. Thank you so much. Let's give a big round to our panelists. And thank you very much. Over to our MC.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suman Shakya, for asking the right questions and adding so much of your expertise and making this panel more fun and entertaining at the same time with your right questions. And thank you to our panelists for giving such an insightful knowledge about your HR practices, the best from your end, which you've been experiencing it, and making a wholesome presentation overall. Oh, big round of applause one more time for all 3 of them. Now, may I invite Ms. Samjana to kindly be on stage to give token of appreciation to our panelists and our moderator. Also a group photo with all three of you together. Thank you so much, everyone. Before we move out for lunch, may I take a moment to thank our sponsors and supporters one more time. Our wellness partner, Tranquility Spa, platinum sponsor, Unilever Nepal Limited, gold sponsor, Roto, Mentholatum Nepal, internet partner, WorldLink Limited, SMS partner, Sparrow, SMS education partner, Techspire College, event partner, Vogue Events, media partner, Corporate Hub, knowledge partner, Growth Leadership Academy, and this event is organized by Growth Sellers Private Limited. I hope you all enjoyed this 2 session that we just had. It's time for all of you to recharge, rejuvenate, and have some amazing food that we've served for you all. And please be back on time, I would like to say, because yesterday I had to remind you all again and again. So make sure that you be here by 1 o'clock exact. And we have another quiz session for all of you, where we will be giving away gift hampers as well. And we also have a little surprise. I will be revealing that in a bit. So enjoy your lunch. See you all in a bit. Thank you.